Just want to say thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen and young people, for being here. And we will now begin our meeting. And I will call up Jasmine Villalobos. If you would please come forward and lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Good evening. May everyone please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Stand there for a minute, please. Thank you. This is one of Jasmine's last events as Miss Cardinal City 2016-2017. She will give up her crown Saturday, September the 23rd. She recently graduated from San Bernardino High School, in fact, past June 2017. And she is going to go across the way, and she is a nursing major beginning Thursday at California State University, San Bernardino. So,
Madam President, can I say something? Madam President, can I say something?
as soon as I finish this, thank you. She would like to thank everyone for their support of the Miss Cardinal City pageant, and she is going to stay in the area. She has done over 500 hours of community service just this past year. So, Dr. Flores?
Yeah, and I just wanted to note that getting into the nursing program is highly competitive, and you're to be congratulated because not too many people, freshmen, get into the nursing program. So you deserve another clap.
Thank you.
And we look forward to you getting your credentials, certificates, and everything else to become a registered nurse and a pediatric specialist. So congratulations and have a great year.
Thank you.
Thanks again. One point three is the adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. Any items to be pulled?
So, Madam President, if I may, I'd like to, after our brief closed session, I would like to conjoin item 4.2, the special recognition, with item 3.2 under my inspirational message. And then staff would also like to pull item 9.2, Arrowhead Grove, and bring that back at a later date.
9.2.
Yes, ma'am.
So moved.
Okay, let's vote. All in favor, and we'll just go ahead and vote. Yes, Ms. Rogers will not be with us today. Probably as we speak, she's probably at this point entering the campus of UCLA. Her son couldn't get the keys until 6 o'clock this evening. And you know how these young men, they need someone to make up the bed and fluff the pillow. And come on, guys, you all know that happened when you went to college.
No, we know how
Point of
mothers
order.
are.
Point of order.
And mom is going to be there.
So,
It's all about having your mom there.
okay, thank you. We will now, audience, go into closed session. And we are having a conference with Dr. Gary Yee, a support to the Board of Governance and Management Matters. It appears that this will not be a long closed session, and there are no public comments. So we expect you to have at least one new friend when we come out. So at this time, we'll close for a closed session. Thank you for not leaving. We counted, so all of you are still here, so thanks. We will now reconvene our open session, And 3.1, action reported from closed session. There's no action to be reported. 3.2, Inspirational Message by Dr. Marsden.
Thank you, Dr. Hill, and it is at this time that I would like to, as I mentioned before, we conjoined items 4.2 and 3.2 under Inspirational Message. You know, on April 10, we know what occurred, and when that day came, we didn't know where we'd be and when, but we know today we have seen a lot of great work that's occurred in our community and the leadership of our community. And as I was meeting with Principal Yadira just yesterday, she talked about how she wanted to come to the board and thank them. So as part of my inspiration, I wanted her to take the opportunity to talk to the board a little bit with her team, take some time to mention to them her thoughts. I thought they were very inspirational to me, and then we have a special recognition we'd like to also make in a presentation with the board here shortly. Welcome, and good evening, Ms. Downing. You are my inspiration.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Hill.
Good evening.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Marsden, cabinet members, and audience members. I'm going to be a little bit nervous, so I do have my paper to read. Again, my name is Yadira Downing, and I am here with my North Park family. Say hello.
All right.
Welcome.
To provide you with a personal update, even though we know that the cabinet has kept you updated of what has been happening and how the progress that we have been doing at North Park. To begin, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to the entire board for their support. We know that many of what we have received has been because of your empathy and concern for our well-being. We also want to express our sincere thanks to Dr. Marsden for his unwavering support and concern for every single person on our site. Perry Weissman is also there to us because he has steered and moved boulders out of our way to recovery. Plus, he's listened to me cry several times. The same goes for all the cabinet members who have had a part in this process. At this time, I want to applaud and express my gratefulness to the staff that stands behind me for their quick thinking and calm demeanor that allow for quick and safe exit of our students. I really do appreciate you guys. You did an awesome job. Coming back this school year has been bittersweet, but that's a narrative that will take more than 5 minutes. We do, however, want you to know that every day we get up, we get dressed, and we come to work with the best intentions. We are working diligently to get back to a new normal. We have an instructional foci, and we have already begun our work developing effective instruction for student achievement. To facilitate our emotional recovery, we have clinicians from Christian Counseling Services, Counseling Team International, and Clay Services for our students and families. There are so many others for us to thank, but the words do not come easily. How do you repay or express the depth of gratitude we feel for the companies and their staff for providing us with a 21st century school site? Our school is bright and with many modern design features, a place we could have only envisioned for ourselves. I wish we had more time to name and acknowledge all those that came to our aid during and after April 10th. But I would really like to recognize the small group that made the renovation possible. To begin, I'd like to recognize the board, the cabinet, Runau and Clark, the architects, Vanner Construction Management Company, Caston Construction, San Bernardino City Unified School District Facilities, and that includes Joe Aceto. But especially I'd like to thank Tom Pace. I think he was here. Is Tom here? Tom, I tell you, Tom has been a shoulder that I have been able to rely on and cry on. And This is because of his calm and caring demeanor and also his sensitivity to our plight. Nellie Carbone for her patience with us and the follow-through with every single detail. I would like to thank several of my peers for their constant support and running to my side whenever I needed someone to rely on. I would like to begin with Tony Woods. Please stand, Tony. Tony spent about 2 good months with us, and she's a little spitfire. She's a mini-me. But I really do appreciate everything you've done for me and for the entire staff. I think that they will also agree that your support has been meaningful to our healing. I would also like to thank Tommy Archuleta, Denise Martinez, Luis Chavez, Mr. Gallardo. Mr. Gallardo's here, and he's a really great support. Marcus Funches, Ray Culberson, and there are so many others, but again, there's not enough time. We want you to know that we feel supported and cared for. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You dear
Thank you
Downing.
so much.
And Board, as I mentioned, Ms. Downing, her team, North Park, is my inspiration tonight, and it's deeply personal, really, for all of us that have been involved from the beginning, talking with families, talking with children. And I know for my own family and I, we talked about this work every night, and many of us in this room took this home every night. And these are things that have changed all of us for our lives. That's an impact on all of us. And so, little personal story, my family and I were entertaining getting a new little dog, a chocolate lab, and we were wondering, what are we going to name the dog, as we were going through this back in March when she was the dog was born. And we're going back and forth with names, and I came home the evening of April 10, and I gathered the kids around and the family, and I said, I know what we're going to name the dog, and I now know her purpose. Her name is going to be Hope, and I want her to be the district's mascot, and I want her to be a dog that is a comfort dog for the students and the families that we serve in our community. And so with that, tonight, I know Linda's going to walk us through a process that we can officially recognize Hope. I think she's waiting out patiently in the hallway, and we're going to bring Hope in. She comes in, and she's a service dog in training, so give her lots of grace.
Good evening, and I'd actually like to begin by inviting the Board of Education and Chief Polino to please join us down front. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're so glad that you've joined us today. Today, we're pleased to introduce to you the district's first ever mascot and comfort dog. Her name is Hope, and this beautiful chocolate lab is the beloved gift of our beloved pet of our superintendent, Dr. Del Marsden, and his family. Hope is just about 6 months old, and she's being trained as a comfort dog for the SBCUSD stakeholders during and following stressful events. At this time, I will invite Hope and the Marsden family to join us for an official swearing in. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give Hope maybe a gentle round of applause as she comes forward. All right, if we can get Hope to sit, we will be. Uh-oh. It's okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today to witness the swearing in of Hope, the San Bernardino City Unified School District mascot and comfort dog. Hope, put your right paw over your heart. And the Marsden family, will you please answer "I do" on behalf of Hope? Hope, do you solemnly swear to bring joy and smiles to the children in exchange for doggy biscuits? I do, okay. Do you solemnly promise to let children and adults pet your beautiful soft brown fur? Do you promise to be a source of comfort and companionship? And lastly, do you promise to make hope happen? Therefore, on behalf of the Board of Education and the children of San Bernardino, I now pronounce you the official comfort dog and mascot of the San Bernardino City Unified School District. And to commemorate this momentous occasion, we have an official certificate of recognition prepared for Hope, and Chief Polino is promising a special badge will be on its way. So Dr. Marsden and Lori, I guess I'll give this to you. And let's give another gentle round of applause. Karina, do you need another picture? Yeah. Aw. That's a good one. All right, we did it. And I think the board can stay down for the next special recognition, the resolution.
If the board could stay down, and since our honoree is a very dedicated, since our honoree is a very dedicated Rotarian, and since Dale's a Rotarian, Dale, will you read the resolution, and the rest of us could stay down? And I don't know, first time I think I've ever seen you in life without a camera in your hand.
So I would like to actually invite Bob Logston up here while I read this resolution so you can meet him in person. He's a good friend of mine, a fellow Rotarian, Bob. And you wouldn't know it, this guy bounces around with his camera all the time, taking pictures of everybody else. Bob Logston was born on September 1st, 1917 in San Bernardino and recently celebrated his 100th birthday. He's also one of very few World War II veterans and has served his country well. And Bob joined Rotary in 1966. That's Bob when I was born. And has had perfect attendance at meetings ever since. And has been honored as Rotarian of the Year 3 times. And as Rotarian, Bob has supported public education in San Bernardino and Highland by assisting in the delivery of dictionaries to all District 3rd grade students. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education in the San Bernardino City Unified School District does take this opportunity to express its immense gratitude to Bob Logston for his long-standing dedication to promoting and supporting education in the region, and hereby congratulates him on his 100th birthday. Congratulations, Bob. Yes. Yep. We'll have his wife come up to join us in this picture opportunity. And here's your certificate. We'll have you stand over here. We'll get your picture with the board. Thank you, board.
All right, well, we got to celebrate your 100. Close.
When I turn 100, I'll let you know.
We got a few years to go, huh?
A few.
All right, just making sure.
Mike, I think you read the last resolution, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so I'll stop. I'm gonna try to make sure. All right, thanks again, and congratulations. 4.3, recognition of Native American Day. Mr. Tillman?
My pleasure. Recognition of Native American Day. Whereas the Southern California region was home to many generations of Native peoples long before the arrival of the European explorers, and whereas the Native people of the region each held distinct cultures and traditions that bound them to the earth and all its inhabitants, and whereas September 22nd, 2017 is Native American Day, which has been celebrated in California for many years by its 107 federally recognized Indian tribes, and whereas educational leaders throughout the San Bernardino region are encouraged to involve themselves and their schools in a statewide focus on improving the education provided to our children about the local indigenous tribes of Southern California. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the San Bernardino City Unified School District duly notes the celebration of Native American Day and encourages all educators to commemorate this occasion with appropriate instructional activities. So moved.
Second. Okay.
Thank you. Let's vote. Thank you, Board. 4.4, Dr. Wyatt.
Thank you, Madam President. 4.4, resolution declaring October 2017 Character Education Month. Whereas the Board of Education of San Bernardino City Unified School District, with its longstanding record of providing character education and responsibility training to students, welcome the opportunity to proclaim that the present and future well-being of our society requires an involved, caring citizenry with good character, and whereas the board believes that all educators are obliged to awaken youth to the moral and ethical virtues that build a fundamental strength of character, and whereas although character development is first and foremost an obligation of families, the efforts of faith communities, schools, and youth, civic, and human service organizations also play a significant role in supporting family efforts by fostering and promoting good character. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the San Bernardino City Unified School District joins the California State Board of Education in recognizing October 2017 as Character Education Month and encourages our schools to help ensure that the development of strong moral character and the promotion of responsible, ethical, and civic-minded behavior are integrated into each school's curriculum and program of instruction. So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Let's vote, please. Thank you. 4.5, Dr. Flores.
Thank you, Madam President. A resolution declaring October 2017 National Bullying Prevention Month. Whereas almost 30% of youth in the United States are estimated to be involved in bullying each year, either as a bully or as a victim, and an estimated 160,000 students in kindergarten through 12th grade miss school every day for fear of being bullied. And whereas the month of October is National Bullying Prevention Month, a campaign in response to the need to raise awareness of bullying, and whereas bullying can take many forms, including verbal, physical, and most recently in cyberspace, and can happen in many places in and out of school. Therefore, be it resolved that the San Bernardino City Unified School District supports the goals of National Bullying Prevention Month and will work with a broad spectrum of local community stakeholders, parents, students, teachers, and staff to develop, implement, and monitor policies and programs that foster a positive school climate free from harassment, bullying, discrimination, and violence. And be it further resolved that the Board of Education of the San Bernardino City Unified School District proclaims its unified commitment to the education and prevention of bullying in our communities and schools, exploring solutions to the problem, and offering support in raising awareness and recognizing October 2017 as National Bullying Prevention Month.
So moved.
Second.
Let's vote, please. Thank you. Session 5.0, public hearing, and I will open for the public hearing. Do we have any slips?
No public comment.
Okay, there aren't any public comments. 5.1 is the K-12 textbook and instructional materials incentive program for 2017-18. Any comments? All right. With that, I will close the hearing, and we need to vote.
Move to approve.
Yeah,
You need a motion?
we need a
Yeah,
motion.
I made the motion.
Second.
Okay, you moved it?
Yeah, we got a motion by Mr. Gallo, second by Mr. Tillman.
Okay, great.
Okay, it's been moved and motion and properly second. Any other discussion? All right, then I will.
Discussion? You have discussion.
sorry.
Oh,
Oh, thank
Okay.
you. And this is what we voted on, public. Therefore, be it resolved that for the 2017-18 school year, the San Bernardino City Unified School District has provided each pupil with sufficient textbooks and instructional materials aligned to the academic content standards and consistent with the cycles and content of the curriculum frameworks. I'm sorry, I read this after the vote. We will go now to 5.2, where again, we will open. This is public disclosure of the tentative agreement, Article 11, wages between the San Bernardino City Unified School District and Communication Workers of America. Do we have any comments?
No comments.
All right, then we will close and we will vote
So moved.
as
Second.
soon as we get a motion.
It's been moved and seconded.
It's been moved, has it
Danny
been
and-
properly seconded? Okay, then, before we vote, let me just read what we're voting on. Be it resolved that the Board of Education accepts the tentative agreement between the Communications Workers of America and the San Bernardino City Unified School District. Now, please, let's vote. Thank you. Session 6, student board members' comments. We have 2 of our board members here, and again, as with the rest of us, we get 5 minutes max. So we'll start with our seated board member. Danielle.
Hi. I don't have much to say. I'm sorry. I'm pretty tired, but it's good to see that North Park is doing well and that everything with them is more progressive. I also enjoyed seeing Hope, and I know the Student Advisory Council is meeting this Friday, so I'm excited of what the rest of the students who don't get to serve on the board but also get to give input on what's going on in the district come up with so that we can move further from there. And I think that's all I have to say. Oh, congrats to Bob. That's a really legit accomplishment, 100 years. But, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And Ms. Chobe?
I'll just second everything Danielle said because I agree with it and I don't have much else to add. So that's all. Thank you.
Thanks, and thanks to both of you for being here. Section 7, 7.0, public comments. We have any slips?
Can I just say that it's not quite 7 o'clock, so if people come in late, you're going to allow them to,
We will allow them to come in.
Thank you.
We will allow them to speak, anyone coming in up to 7-ish. And just want to remind the speakers that you have 5 minutes, and you will hear, you have the clock somewhat in front of you, but you also will see a button that will go from green to yellow, and by the time you see the red, that should be the last word or two. And just want to make sure personnel issues we don't deal with, but just make sure you keep your time. So there are several.
Well, the board welcome. I'll invite speakers up in order that received. So first received is Miss Vanessa Kaigoy from Hardy Brown College Prep Update. So welcome.
Good evening, Superintendent Marsden, President Hill, and the board.
Good evening.
It's been, I think, 3-4 months since I've been in front of you guys, and so I have a few updates for Hardy Brown College Prep. We started school on August 23rd. Mr. Tikel's team and a few others were able to come do a tour of Hardy Brown, probably our first full week of school. Yeah.
Great.
Yes, first full week of school. So some highlights for this school year is we've made attendance our organizational priority. And what that means is that we've hired an attendance person to handle all the letters that are going to be going out and phone calls and all that. We have our SARTs put together. And we've also done an incentive program. So what we found is that if we incentivize things through the scholars, they go and run home and tell their parents, and then they get excited and they say, I have to get to school. I have to get to school because if we get to school and we have 3 consecutive days of 100% attendance in our class, we get a prize. And so for the month of September, or let me back up, for August, it was Twizzlers, so they got a Twizzler party for 3 consecutive days of 100%. So all of our incentives are really low in cost, but they're exciting. And then for the month of September, it's ice cream, or root beer floats. And then next month, it'll be popcorn. And so the students are actually really excited about this, and they're telling their parents, hey, we have to get to school. I have to get to school so we can get a root beer float party. And it's weekly. So it's a weekly incentive. So if you have 3 consecutive days, you will get that root beer float on Friday. Also, we have our school site council parent elections happening. So that's really excited. My coworker, my colleague, Laura back here, we were looking at the results as all of our ballots are now electronic via SurveyMonkey. So we were able to see how the elections are going, polls close tomorrow. And then our Title I Information Night was this evening. It's an annual meeting that we started having last year to inform our parents of what Title I is and how we use it in our schools. And we get their feedback on our parent involvement policy plan as well as our wellness policy during this time. And so we had 51 parents actually attend that meeting tonight, too. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
We
Thank you.
appreciate your updates.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks.
The board welcomes Blue Educational Foundation. I know there's several of you, so we'll just ask you to organize yourselves according to your plan to present to the board. And it was good to see you at the UCAN conference this morning, so it's fantastic.
Good evening, President Hill, honorable board members of San Bernardino City Unified School District, and Superintendent Marsden.
Good evening.
My name is Crystal Davis, and we're here on behalf of Blue Educational Foundation. We're excited to present the highlights and results our organization has performed at our contracted school sites. This past academic year, we've had the pleasure of working with students and parents at Pacific and San Bernardino High School. In our scope of work, we were contracted for 400 students, and we served 513 students from Pacific High School. Of the 513 students served, 156 were African American, 71 American Indian, and 189 Latino. At San Bernardino High School, we were contracted for 161 students, and we served 572. 142 were African American, 107 American Indian, and 270 Latino. As a part of our college and career access work, we've assisted seniors from both high schools on the FAFSA and DREAM Act applications. The biggest barrier of students attending college is the lack of funds, and this year we verified 159 completed applications out of 318 seniors at Pacific, with a total of $738,038 in Pell Grant awards. At San Bernardino, we verified 150 completed applications out of 303 seniors, with a total of $651,165 in Pell Grant awards. With college acceptances, we've assisted 135 seniors out of 318 at Pacific for the full academic school year, and 87 out of 303 seniors during our 4 months at San Bernardino High School. Our foundation has also identified students that qualified for the Masonic Scholarship, the Blue Educational Foundation Scholarship, and the NYLF Scholarship Program, resulting in a total amount of $42,600 for Pacific Scholarship recipients and $8,000 for San Bernardino Scholarship recipients. As a part of our one-on-one interactions and meetings with students and parents, we've completed 181 out of 239 personal education plans, also known as PEPs, for African American students at Pacific, while also completing 139 out of 106 PEPs at San Bernardino. We've initiated numerous programs to expose our students to college by hosting college visits to San Diego State, Cal State San Bernardino, the Black College Expo in Los Angeles, and last year's UCAN College Fair. We've also spearheaded workshops on and off school sites to prepare our students for higher education. By the end of the school year, we've honored and recognized our students for their achievements and our annual College Exodus Project Scholarship Award ceremony. When working with students, we've completed 60 parent PEPs at Pacific and 96 parent PEPs at San Bernardino to involve and engage parents with student academic progress. We've accomplished these results by scheduling parent meetings at both schools, as well as committing to making house visits, especially for parents with conflicting schedules outside of school hours. In addition to working with students during the school year, we've also worked with students during the summer, getting them into career-centered programs hosted at Loma Linda University and UCLA. Our foundation has committed ourselves to providing educational services to our students in order to increase a passion for higher education and to create a college and career culture in the Inland Empire. We're excited for this upcoming school year and look forward to your continued support as we make college and career access more available to the students of the IE. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Hill, honorable board members of the San Bernardino City Unified School District, and staff, and Superintendent Marsden.
Good evening.
My name is Eduardo Contreras, and I am here on behalf of the Blue Educational Foundation, and I'd just like to comment on our continuous efforts to increase FAFSA completion rates throughout the Inland Empire. So since 2009, the Blue Educational Foundation has been contracted at Arroyo Valley High School, San Gorgonio High School, Pacific High School, and recently San Bernardino High School. Throughout our work, we have discovered that financial barriers are the primary reasons preventing students from continuing their education. And completing the FAFSA and the DREAM Act has been proven to be the best way to address these barriers. Upon completing the FAFSA, the highest award amount that a student can receive based on their total household income is roughly $6,000, which is $5,928, and most of the students within the Inland Empire are within qualifying for free reduced lunch, and they will most likely receive the full amount of the FAFSA if they were to apply. And studies from the National College Access Network also show that more low-income students attend community colleges in comparison to mid to high-income students. So completing the FAFSA and the DREAM Act is even more important for students of the Inland Empire, as according to College Board, the average tuition for community colleges in California is roughly $1,430. So completion of the FAFSA has become such an essential document for prospective college students that within the Inland Empire, Val Verde Unified School District has already implemented the completion of the FAFSA as a high school graduation requirement. And this is a promising first step towards increasing college access for all students, because as reported in January 2016, $2.7 billion federal dollars were left on the table and were unclaimed due to students not completing their FAFSA. So we would hope that San Bernardino joins Val Verde at the forefront to increase educational achievement and promote a college-going culture. We also understand that there is a high student-to-counselor ratio of 783 students per counselor within the county of San Bernardino, as according to the kidsdata.org. And implementing the completion of the FAFSA as a graduation requirement is a daunting task, which is why the Blue Educational Foundation has already taken the initiative to provide a solution. And we are proposing to assist school counselors reach their students to complete their FAFSA and DREAM Act, as we are currently in the process of recruiting and creating a college advising corps comprised of local current college students to assist in creating increasing FAFSA completion rates throughout the Inland Empire. The College Advising Corps will also assist with college applications and connecting students to career pathways. We hope that San Bernardino will continue to support Blue in creating post-secondary options for San Bernardino. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ebony Burson, and I'm a senior at San Bernardino High School.
Hello.
The Blue Education Foundation has helped me define myself as a student, and it helped me bridge the gap between myself, a first-generation student, and college. I always knew that college could be an option, but with the help of Blue, college was no longer a distant probability, but an actual possibility. During the summer, I spent 2 weeks at Loma Linda University studying how to become a doctor, and an additional week living on campus at UCLA. Both of these experiences helped form me as a student and helped grow me as a student.
It's okay.
That's great.
Okay.
Without Blue Educational Foundation, I wouldn't have had these opportunities to grow my passion for being a doctor or medicine in general. Yeah, thank you.
What school do you
Thank you.
attend?
San Bernardino High School.
And what grade are you in?
I'm a senior.
All right. And
Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
did you attend UCAN this morning?
Good evening. I'm Samaya Barfield. I attend San Bernardino High School, and I started off with the Blue Educational Foundation program as an 11th grader. I didn't know anything about it until I had a meeting with Ms. G, and she met with my mom. She drove all the way to Long Beach to speak to her about my college interests, and they spoke a lot about it because I didn't know a lot about college and about how I could get accepted and the FAFSA, so I really didn't have a clue. But the Blue Educational Foundation, they helped me have a lot of interest and get me on the road to make sure that I have the ACT scores correct and make sure that I pass. And so they helped me a lot, and I'm thankful for them.
Thank you.
I think you just made a slogan. Blue gives you a clue.
Hello, my name is Joseph Burns. I'm a San Bernardino High School graduate, and I'm currently attending San Bernardino Valley College. In general, I have to say that without the Blue Foundation, I wouldn't be able to go to college. My financial stability is pretty bad. I'm poor. My mom works all day. My sister works all day. I work at a restaurant called The Castaways, 12 hours a day from Monday to Sunday. And the Blue Foundation helped me get the Mason Scholarship, which is $7,000 for a whole year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great.
And in general, I'd say they pushed me to get that scholarship because in my sense, I would work 2 jobs to support my mother. And I would do that over getting my education, even though I know it will help me, but my mother's more important to me since my dad doesn't really be there for me. And that's really all I have to say. I'll say keep the Blue Foundation in San Bernardino so they could keep helping African students or any ethnicity students to make sure they get the education they get. Thank you very much.
So what school do you go to? You out of school? What do you?
No, I go to San Bernardino Valley College.
Okay, great. What are you majoring in?
Biomedical engineering. I'm trying to become a genetic engineer.
And what high school did you graduate from?
San Bernardino High School.
I went to San Bernardino High School too, but congratulations.
Thank you.
Great, great.
The other thing, Blue also is at San Bernardino Valley College to continue
Yes.
providing services. And I see Blue's director in the back there. Would you stand and raise your hand?
And
Thank
I also
you.
went to
Ms.
Valley
Walker.
College too, young man.
Did you?
I sure did.
Thank you.
And I was also poor.
So you see your chances are great.
blessed
Thank you
day.
for sharing. Dr. Flores?
Well, I think Ms. Bernardino was before me.
I was just going to say that with Dina Walker, who is an amazing person who started this, I worked with her previously when I used to work with COPE, who is also a school board member for the Rialto Unified School District. So we can see leaders that work in our community actually achieve greater stuff and making sure that this happens across the, not just in our district, but looking at other districts. So thank you so much, Dina Walker, for your services. So.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Dr.
You stole my thunder. I gave you. I was going to also recognize Dina as a leader and also as a school board member, esteemed colleague, and this is what we have to do when we see young men and young women like that just came before us. That's what we have to do. We can't do it alone. We have to have our organizations to help because just our teachers can't do it all. Our parents can't do it all, and we have to have community support. And as a school district, as a board, we support you all. So, and I hope you figure out stuff, bioengineering. I hope you create all kinds of stuff, okay? And let your imagination just fly, and do the things that, you know, solve problems and make a lot of money, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. And Mama, I know we left you standing there for a little while, but
That's
thanks for
fine.
your patience.
Good evening. I'm Lakeisha Burns. I'm Joseph Burns' mother. I actually had 2 kids graduate from San Bernardino High. My daughter graduated 2008 with honors. She didn't have the Blue Foundation then, and that is something that we talk about a lot when we bring up the Blue Foundation in our house, because they have helped me a lot with my son to grow as a young man. I didn't know anything about a college application, what to put on there. All I know is elementary through high school. I didn't know anything, and they helped us. They talked to us. They were just like a concerned family member, and they're a blessing. I don't know what else to say, but thank God for them. I love them as a whole, you know. My son went from high school straight to college, and for my household and my family, my kids are the only kids that has ever gone to college in my generation of kids. And my nieces and nephews, they haven't gone. So my kids are like the high achieved kids. And I want to say it's because of the Blue Foundation. When I say they help with everything, tests. They would take him to tests when I couldn't get there. They would constantly call me and tell him, did he do this? Did he do that? Did he turn this in? And I needed that because I was to the point like, you know, we just work in our family. We didn't go to college. You know, I went for cake decorating. That's nothing. But for my son to want to be something, I pushed and pushed and pushed. And I'm just glad that they came into my life. And I hope that they stay with San Bernardino, because San Bernardino High School needs the Blue Foundation. They really love everyone, but they love San Bernardino High School. And I love San Bernardino. I didn't go to school out here, but I feel like I'm a alumni. But I just want to say I thank them from the bottom of my heart. And every time I look at the scholarship on my mantelpiece at home, it gives me the proudest feeling in the world. It's a feeling that no one could ever take away, and it's because of the Blue Foundation that he can be what he wants to be now. And I just thank you guys for listening. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
That's great. Thank you.
And just want to remind you, you're preaching to the choir, because we also very familiar with the good work they do. Thank you. Okay.
Well, thank you very much for your comments tonight. It's appreciated. Great work. Board welcomes Mr. Ron Fletcher. I don't know, Mr. Fletcher, do you want to come now or when you're scheduled to speak? Coming now. All right, sounds good.
Okay, I'm not versed in a lot of different things. My name's Ron Fletcher. I live at 2769 Akron, San Bernardino, and I'm a proud parent of 8 kids that went through the school system here. And I just have a couple of questions. Coming to all these meetings, sometimes I find items on the agenda that are there before you actually do them. Sometimes I don't. Today I have 11.2. You have a consultant agreement with Dr. Gary Lee, yet you've already met with him. Doesn't this have to be approved by the school board first before you go meeting with him? And if that's the case, is he going to send you a bill and you're going to re-put in another thing since the daily rate's $1,200?
Yeah, so Mr. Fletcher, I'll just answer. The board had a conference call with Dr. Yee this evening, and there's been no contract entered into until the board takes action tonight.
Okay, so we don't pay for the conference call then?
Correct. Well, nothing's done until board takes action.
All right. Thank you very much. The other thing that I want to say is I'd sure like to become a good friend of yours, because I've noticed down through the years that a lot of times these people that you know, and it's really great that you bring other people in here. We had a training in July where we had cultural awareness, and I see that on 11.16, you're going to have your first teachers from Pepperdine College in here to talk. And I'd sure like to be invited to be one of those people that learn what they're talking about on cultural proficiency.
If you make it to our management team meeting, you'll be there.
When's the management meeting?
You have all the dates.
Okay, can I invite one or two people?
You can come as you always do, Ron. You're always welcome.
All right, didn't solve something there. Okay, thank you.
You bet. My pleasure.
Thank you.
And then, Board, we have a final comment from Ms. Negretti. Welcome, Ms. Negretti.
In the summertime, it's hot and I get bloody noses on the charter buses. It has air conditioning, and so do the little buses. I recently met with Pam Montana, and I told her that I think we should have air conditioning in the normal buses. I said this because it's super hot. I think kids like me would kids like me agree with me because they can relate to my problem with the heat on the buses and the summer heat. I believe this because in the summer heat plus the bus heat.
Wow, well, thank you for your thoughts. What is your name, young lady?
Tonight,
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for sharing your comments tonight.
Can I ask you what school you
Thank you.
attend?
outside,
Hillside. And what grade are you in?
4th.
Wow.
You read very well. And we heard your
Great job.
message. Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate your comments tonight.
Thank you.
Board
Dr. Flores?
welcome.
I wanted to
Let's
ask
go
you,
on.
sweetheart, I
Mr.
wanted to
Gray.
ask you, so you're asking that you would like our buses to have air conditioning, correct? For all our buses, right? Not just certain ones?
Yeah,
So the normal buses that you're talking about don't have air conditioning?
they don't.
They
the
don't?
bus drivers have little fans in the front.
Uh-huh,
Yet, what about kids like me? We get bloody noses.
right. So are you asking us that we should take care of that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you. Board welcomes. The board welcomes Miss Barbara Pastachek, has an announcement, or San Andreas. Welcome.
Good evening, President Hill, Dr. Marsden, school board members, cabinet, staff, and everyone else present and listening.
Good evening.
My name is Barbara Pastachek, and I'm a special ed teacher over at San Andreas High School. And I'm here on behalf of San Andreas to invite you to attend an event that is in downtown Riverside called the Long Night of Arts and Innovation. And San Andreas is the only high school that has been invited to attend, and we're really proud of this. Our students are going to have the opportunity to show off our career pathways of Quake technology innovators and advanced technology farming. I'm also proud to inform you that my special ed students, moderate severe, will also be present and have a booth and be able to show off what they have learned with the advanced technology farming as well. We hope that you will bring your families and attend this fun and exciting event that is on October 12th. It is from 5 to midnight. I have some flyers and information that show the layout of this, if I may hand this out.
Okay.
Please. That's fantastic. Thank you. That's great news.
Thank you very much. Hope to see you there.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you so much.
And Board, those are all the public comments this evening, and as you've mentioned, if someone comes and needs to comment at 7 o'clock, then we can certainly do that.
Thank you. Session 8, 8.0, Administrative Reports. 8.1, Centralized Services Facility Update.
Yes, so this is where Dr. Moneras and team will give you an update on our plan for temporary location for a centralized services facility. So Dr. Moneras, I know you have some guests tonight.
I do. If I could have my team come forward. Ms. Robertson and Mrs. Nettles, will you come sit up front? Oh, she's on the phone. All right, Board. So this evening, we're going to give you an update on the Centralized Services Facility. We said we would be coming back on this date. Specifically, we'll be speaking to a temporary location. We have 2 options that we've looked at, and we have a recommendation for the board to consider, as well as who would be housed in that temporary location. There we go. So tonight, two outcomes. Present the staffing recommendations for temporary centralized services facility and present a temporary housing option. As shared, we looked at 2 board, but our recommendation is to have the temporary housing in a module, and you'll see our rationale behind that. We'll also have our parents at the very end give us the thumbs up because we have been engaging them in this process. So board, you have a copy of this handout so that you can see larger. And so if you turn to page 1, I'll just quickly remind you, this, when we first met with our stakeholder engagement group, we broke them into groups. There were 14 groups, and we asked them to dream what would be inside of this centralized location, and dream they did. We had things from opportunities to wash clothes if needed. Starbucks, I think, was mentioned, food courts, things like that, and we didn't turn anything down. But then we aggregated it into these big areas. And so educational programs, health, social and health services for family and students, and then building concepts. And you see the numbers going across boards, so you see 14 out of 14. Just a reminder that that means that of the 14 groups, all 14 said they wanted information or that type of information in the center. And so program options and assessment was one of them, specifically a big request for language assessment and then the placement of our English learners. There was also 14 out of 14 going across health services and mental services or mental health services for our students that may be needed. Most specifically, again, immunizations and sports physicals to really highlight that. And then an option for enrollment, but also a location that's centralized so families can go and learn more about the district. So when we looked at what could be in this temporary location, what we said that would be most important is that there would be some training and some resource development offered throughout our district, but the temporary location would be able to provide services that are specific to these high area needs. So the first one is that we would have people in there that can do the enrollment option, and so we will be flying an assistant director position that would oversee enrollment. We would house the English Language Assessment Center in there and the English Learner programs, and that would be for the temporary facility. Oops, I moved fast. We'd also be putting our Family Engagement Office and Atlas, which is formerly known as our Foster Youth and Homeless. There was update on that to you, board, but Atlas stands for Access to Learning for All Students, and so they would be housed in there. We would also offer a health clinic for the immunization, and those are the primary pieces that would be offered in the temporary facility. And so this slide shows the overall, between now and when the permanent facility could be provided, who would be housed in there, and again, based on data. So English Learner Program, Language Assessment Center, Assistant Director of Enrollment Services, Atlas Department, our Foster Youth and Homeless, Family Engagement Department, and our Health Clinic. Do not want to confuse the board. The family engagement centers at the high schools remain at the high schools. This is Mr. Ramirez's staff that works right under him. That's the family engagement that we're talking about. So then we have Tom Pace, our Director of Facilities, and he'll talk through the 2 options for you.
Good evening, Board. We have outlined 2 options for your review and consideration. The options listed below outline the costs and other relevant information. Option 1 revolves around a mobile structure, modular structure, that would be housed at the back of the BOE by the other portables. You can see the costs. We feel that the close proximity to the BOE is a plus. It's further from the transit center, however, We do have limited parking. However, we could get the facility up and running by mid-November. In option 2, we looked at a leased building option. It's the building next to the old Marshall's building. I believe it's an old beauty school. We toured the facility. We talked to the leasing agent. The amounts listed below are based off of the quotes that they have provided us. It's farther from the BOE. It is closer to the transit center. It does have limited parking like the BOE, and tenant improvements would be needed. The facility really does need some adjustment to accommodate the people moving into the center. And so you can see the different costs associated for those 2 options. As we move further along, we provided you a floor plan of what the modular structure could look like. You'll notice there's another structure below it. We believe that we'd need to add an additional trailer for some of the medical programs that we'd be providing through Saks Clinic, if I'm not mistaken.
We're engaging in conversation, but we would have a health clinic.
Perfect. And then a little further along, we took a picture of the proposed leased building so that you'd know where at least it was located. And I think those are the 2 options for your consideration. And I know that we've reviewed these options with several of the district advisory committees, and I think they'd like to weigh in on what they feel is best. So I'm going to let my dear friends come to the mic and speak and let me be done.
Could I?
Okay, right now.
Yeah.
Excuse me, before the young ladies, we have 2 lights on, Mr. Tillman and then Ms. Medina.
So 2 questions. The square footage of the 2 options?
So the modular structure, our proposal is a 60 by 60, so roughly 3,600 square feet,
And the building?
is about 7,000 square feet.
And the number of restrooms in the modular?
In the modular, you have a men's and women's restroom,
And the leased building?
men's and women's restroom.
And how many stalls?
I wasn't present during the tour. From what I understand, it's 3 to 5 in both.
In the
3 to 5 in the men's and women's,
in the leased building?
in the lease building.
And it's going to be the same thing in the other one, in the modular?
No, the modular is it's a unisex restroom in essence.
Yeah, which to me is a big difference. The other one, in terms of, you mentioned another building, another modular for something else. What is that? Is the cost included in this?
Correct. So the cost, the 60 by 60 is essentially all buildings shown on the modular structure floor plan. So the building down below is included in the square footage. It's a separate structure. We felt we needed a separate structure for the medical programs that are going to need.
So the total with both of the modulars is 3,600 square feet?
Correct.
And then, when you talked about limited parking. Did you talk with the lease company in terms of how many of those parking spaces up front are dedicated for that lease building?
Yes, sir.
How many?
In housing 35 employees. So I think that they were guaranteeing us 5 to 7 stalls out front
So the rest of that parking lot is for who?
for visitors of all other, either the Marshall's building, the Taco Bell, whoever wants to park there, it's available.
And I only say because I've been going there forever. And when Marinella was open, the parking lot was always full. Because they've left, then it's empty. So most of those spaces were being used by the people in the Marinella. So you would have a lot of space there. I'm sure when you went, you noticed there was a lot of parking space available. I just think that the larger space with the extra restrooms are a big deal, and the proximity to the bus stations just across the street is a big deal too. I know you have some parents. I just want to make sure that all the parents were provided a chance. I know you have a large group, that a large group of the parents were able to see the option. Because to me, if you're going to be doing this for a few years, you're better off with the actual structure. When you go into temporary facilities, then there are things you have to deal with, and especially if you're going to have construction going on here, it's going to be cluttered. I just want to throw that out there. So when if they accept the modulars, that's fine. But I just want to make sure you know you had options, and I think the one next to Marshall's is a great option. Thank you.
Ms. Medina?
Okay, so I have a few questions with regarding the assessment. I'm glad that we're putting down with the language assessment, but there's also other assessments that I don't want our students to be losing opportunities to, especially programs in the district. When you look at accelerated assessments that are also part of the students' different type of programming, when you look at Sankofa, different programs there, how are we assuring that while we have this temporary location, that all our students are able to access this in that enrollment center as well? We cannot forget, when you look at assessments, period, that you look at all the assessments provided by the district. And you also don't want to forget our special ed students as well as other programs that they should be accessing right then and there as well. So that's just some questions on who will be at the center themselves, but making sure that we do not lose those programs that our parents or students might lose opportunity because they don't know about it and they're not there readily available.
Right, so for the temporary, those actual programs will be placed, but informational pieces so that parents, no matter where they're at, are being developed. And we're going to be sharing that with the stakeholder group to make sure that we're meeting that need. And they wouldn't be just placed at that centralized location, but at our schools as well. So no matter where you're walking into, you can gather that information. So whether that's a special ed placement and helping our parents to know where does special ed placement actually take place, or assessment, which is to take place at schools, but making sure that our parents have access to information. So that is actually going to be part of our agenda for October, is talking with our parents on when we talk about a centralized location, the difference between going there and actually getting the service or going there and finding out the information, and so that you know exactly where to go and how to connect you.
So for instance, like for there's accelerated kindergarten. And so if a student wants to get the accelerated kindergarten or the parent wants to have their children enter the program, then just like you would do with language assessment, would they be able to access that assessment there and then, or how would that work?
We would have information for them to do that so that they would know dates that they have to have things turned in, who they need to contact. We'll figure out a system so that we get them connected to the right people, and really that people are reaching out to them rather than them having to reach out to others.
Yeah, just as long as we're able to have that, because my concern is that if it's not there, the whole point, I guess the idea is to make sure that they're there readily available to provide that information. When they go out and they receive the information afterwards, I just a little nervous about them not receiving.
And the intent for the permanent facility is to have that there.
Yes, of course. I just wanted to make sure that we're making sure that all programs are available for the parents and students when they do the enrollment as well. Okay.
Okay, Dr. Flores?
Yes, I just needed some clarification. You provided a modular structure for the least, not the least one, but the option one. So, but we didn't get one for option two. Is it just a big space?
It's just a large rectangle.
Oh, right,
7,000
okay.
square feet.
Okay, so it's just
I have a picture.
there's nothing in it, it's
Can
just a
send you
large
nothing in
rectangle,
it.
okay. All right, that would be set up, okay, just wanted to know, okay, thank you. And those 3 to 5 bathrooms that Mr. Tillman was talking about, are they actually there?
So there are 2 restrooms that have 3 to 5 stalls in each restroom.
Okay, all right, so there are, okay.
And so the reason you'll notice tenant improvements are listed under leased building. Those are the walls and things needed to be provided so that we can make the space accommodating, because right now it's just an open space.
Okay, okay, thank you so much.
Dr. Hills, one more thing.
I'm looking forward to the
and then I'll
parents'
get to you.
comments.
Is that it, Dr. Flores?
Yeah, I was just saying, I'm looking forward to Devonna and Miss
Lilia.
Cisneros, I'm sorry, Miss Cisneros. Comments.
And this might be in your comments, I'm just thinking with the internet and services you can access from home. Are you taking a look at any of those? Because I would think if a parent can fill out an application, with the Chromebook or with the desktop or whatnot, I wouldn't be driving downtown, to do that, even if I had 5 cars. So just want to know if we're taking a look at those types of services, and if you, I would think the purpose of the enrollment center is for something to be convenient for our parents. And the more access I would think you would have from home would be better than getting in your car, driving to a location, and, you know, and getting back home and say, oh, I forgot to ask about this, so you're driving again. So I'm just hoping during this process, we take a look at what's accessible from home or from the library or any other center. Mr. Tillman?
I just want to, I don't know how many people were going to be at the building during enrollment and at your peak times, but that is a concern. And if you look at the numbers you're talking about at the 3,600, you're talking about 102 square feet per employee, if you're talking about the 35 employees, compared to 200 square feet. I'm in a building at my office, and I can tell you, when you have a lot of people in that building, then how many restrooms you have is a big deal. And you may not be thinking about it now, but when you get in the building and someone has to wait in line to use the restroom, it becomes, I'm telling you, having an extra 4 or 5 stalls becomes something that you will value. And they're going to be in these buildings for a couple of years. I just can't see why it would be better to be in a smaller building with less restrooms. It doesn't make any sense to me. And the building he's talking about will be, you build to fit. So you would put whatever you want in there. It would be nice. It'd be a brand new building. You have to put brand new flooring. You have to stand up brand new walls as you design them. And you could design the 7,000 square feet. You can put up walls to section off stuff for the medical part and section off stuff for whatever the particulars are for the training. You're going to build it to meet your needs. There's no way that it's better to have a smaller portable building with fewer restrooms than it is to have a larger space. It makes no sense to me.
Thank you. Ms. Medina?
Okay, with regarding that, are there options to add restrooms, additional restrooms, either through portables or so forth? I know it might not be the best convenience, but honestly, that could help out with regarding the issue. The reason why I'm saying is because you look at, there's a $200,000 difference. And the $200,000 difference can actually be implemented through additional space or additional remodel to the building that we're planning to have as a permanent location that could add maybe a better structure for the kids area or a nicer area for the computers. I mean, I don't know, but that money can best utilized in the new permanent location, not necessarily in a temporary location that we really are not going to be utilizing for a long distance, I mean, for a long time. But yet, maybe options with adding more bathrooms, because it is a reality. There's a lot of people going in and out, and we need to make sure that they're not waiting in line too long.
Thank you.
Yes, there are additional restrooms that we can deploy for the back of the BOE. We know that during construction, we're moving some of our employees out of this building. They're going to be housed in the portables in the back during the construction that occurs here. So we are planning on bringing more restrooms for them as well. I think there's pros and cons to both options. I agree with Danny Tillman. You can build to your need in a permanent structure. And I also see the validity of building a smaller temporary facility and deploying those resources to the permanent facility later. So like I said, I think we've given 2 options for your review and consideration. And
Thank you. Mr. Gallo?
Yeah, do you have a recommendation, Tom?
put me on the spot.
Yep.
Well, yes, Mr. Gallo.
Yes. I'm putting you on the spot.
I told
Whatever
the
you,
story-
whoever wants to answer that is
I told
fine.
the story to our small group last week that when I was a kid, my dad tented our house because there was
Are you going to give me a story that's not going to give me a recommendation? Is that what you're telling me?
He's going to have a recommendation. He moved us out of the house into a very low-key motel into 1 room. We're a large family. We could have afforded 2 rooms. And we all grumbled for the week that we moved out of the house. But when we moved back in, there was a pool table in the house. So my recommendation is always I think cheaper the better, and then you can deploy those resources to a permanent facility. But that's just my humble opinion.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll have an extra $100,000 at the ending balance. So instead of $100 million, it'll be $100 million and 100,000.
And
Okay, and we appreciate you answering the questions. If you want to continue with your presentation.
Good evening, board members. I agree with everything Mr. Tillman is saying. As a matter of fact, after we met with Dr. Monares and the rest of the team last Friday, we each went to our team of parents and presented. And we also agree with you, Ms. Nadina, about the spacing. And we looked at it from the perspective of being a temporary location. Our concern is, as you're saying, our main key was to get all the services in one place for all the students, all the parents. And we agreed we looked at the pros and cons exactly the way you're doing it. And we agreed that we need the temporary location now. We needed it since last year because if you look at the numbers, our enrollment in the bilingual AB dual programs, it's gone down. Number one, we've told you numerous times that the parents are being misinformed about the programs, not only the dual emergent, about every program, and I agree with you, that was our priority. That's why we started this whole thing 3 years ago. One of the things that I specifically asked Dr. Monares on our meeting, are these portables going to be connected, as we asked from the beginning, because we do not want parents to be going from one portable out to the other. We want them all to be connected, and she stressed to me, yes, they will be connected. As a temporary location, we're saying since it's going to be in November, it's going to be close time for enrollment the new year, we need to get something going for our kids. We stressed again, parents told me make sure that I reiterated about the different programs. As you're saying, we discussed it, and we said we're going to have the booklets of information. We've met with Dr. Marsden, Dr. Volkemer, and we stressed also that we need the staff to be properly trained. So we are looking at every angle that you have mentioned, and we're looking at temporary location to our other building. So we've waited 3 years. I don't think you want to see the entire board full of parents unhappy because, okay, what's going on now? First you say yes, and now what's going on? So it got a little bit heated at one point, but when we decided to look at the pros and cons of both, what was presented to us, we need it now. We understand that every child needs respect, has a right to the proper information. Every parent deserves the same thing. So we need to get this started, and it's centralized. We've always asked for it to be centralized, and this is the most centralized location for everybody. Thank you.
So you guys are choosing option one?
Yes.
Option one, okay.
Good evening. Number one, I appreciate you guys moving this up and making things happen a little sooner. We appreciate that. I have warm dishwater at home waiting for me, so I'll be brief. I appreciate the issues that you all lifted, but and you have, I'm not going to apologize for it, but we don't have, we're not movers and shakers like that. We don't have access to hundreds and thousands of dollars. So in your eyes, it might be not a big deal, but for us, if we can make something happen in a smaller space a lot sooner and it's conducive for all involved, then we would like to go with the smaller option. I mean, the less expensive option. And in my head, I can think of a lot of things or needs that can be met with an extra $100,000 or $200,000 that can be beneficial to our students and our families. And yes, we still have to discuss this at the next meeting on October 9th with the bigger group, but for those parents that I've been in contact with that's been a part of the process thus far, they are also okay with the smaller location because it makes things happen a lot sooner. And there's still other things, and we all understand, or the parents at least that are in conversation with me, that this is going to be a process. And I think at the last meeting last week on Thursday, it was raised that we want to stay flexible and understand that there's going to have to be some shifts and some readjustments and some revisitation of things, and we're okay with that. And so I too, like Mrs. Nettles, agree that we want to go with, we support the option 1.
Thank you. Mr. Gallo?
Thank you, Dr. Haley. Tom, is there a way to add another portable to it, or that's kind of maxed out for the site?
So the one thing about a modular structure is we can make it any size that we like. So yes, we can add on if needs be.
Did you do any incremental cost increase, if you thought about that? What's that changed the number?
If you give me a quick second.
Sure.
Turn to the quote.
Maybe you could throw a couple bathrooms in there or something.
So for an additional 24 by 60 is roughly $1,300 per month.
And so the 134 would go to,
Doing some quick math of roughly.
yeah, I don't know,
160.
because it's going to be setup fees and furniture and blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Roughly 160. Setup fees
So 160?
are already included.
Well, that sure sounds like a good expenditure for another 30-something thousand, another less than 30,000. You can get a quarter size bigger, right? I imagine those are, you can get 25% more. So
Yes, sir.
it's not a bad compromise,
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Tillman?
I would just encourage you when you talk to the rest of the parents that you have to trust me. The $80,000 is not worth making your decision. I'm telling you. We have a $640 million budget. I have a good idea of where the money is and money for facilities and construction. Trust me, I don't know how to convey it to you, but the amount of money you talk about is not something that should decide whether or not you're going to inconvenience that many parents and students. And I'm only saying this for one reason. So when you guys get in that little space and you got people lined up at the door, going into the restroom and having to go outside to go to the other restroom, it's a mobile home. There's no way you can make a mobile home a home. It's not. But that space is a big space you could customize, and it'll be a professional atmosphere. I'm telling you, the fact that it is a space that will be set up as a professional office space will change everything. You can decide how you do it, but I'm telling you, to be in the middle of a construction zone with a bunch of portables and adding on portables and going up ramps is not going to give you a feeling that this is a real professional environment. But you guys can make the decision, but please don't make the decision based on saving $60,000. Please don't do that.
And I might be incorrect, but is the decision in you guys' court?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so you guys decide, we're just giving our feedback, but I think that that's something that we will lift to the other parents when we meet with them on October 9th. I don't want to make it seem like we're in here trying to clip coupons to save the district money, not like that, right? But, but the point is, if we can have something, a lot sooner, and it's going to be conducive, not just for the parents and students, but also for the staff.
That's fine.
Because we want staff with good attitude in there, not upset because they got to wait 30 minutes to go to the bathroom.
And
I appreciate
but you're
the
making my point. I'm telling you, I work in an office building. Restrooms,
It's important.
new furniture, new buildings makes a difference. And that's what you're talking about here. You're talking about having new walls put up, new partitions, new chairs, new seats. It makes a big difference. I'm telling you. For what you want to do, it makes a huge difference. Just consider it. Now, and you are making a big decision because they're saying that what we don't want to do tonight is make a decision and then have the other 40 parents come back and say, that's not what we asked for, right? So I'm assuming that you're representing what the other parents want. That's what your role is supposed to be. But if you're not going to make the decision tonight, I definitely would argue for the center next to Marshall's. And I'm telling you, even in terms of people who don't have transportation, it's a whole, because I rode buses as a kid. I was a guy who wanted to pull the string. My mama would tell me to sit down. If you don't have to do a transfer, that makes a big difference. If you take the bus down to E Street and Rialto, you don't have to make a transfer. You're at your place. You get off the bus, you walk across the street, you're at your enrollment center. That makes a huge difference.
Dr. Wyatt? Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Dr. Wyatt?
Thank you, Madam President. And first of all, real quick, Tom, quick question. I see this lease option being for 2 years. Do we have a timeline on the build out of our final facility
So we matched it for that same time frame.
for a 2-year
So the
period?
permanent facility is going to take 2 years.
Okay, so this will be our home for those 2
Yes,
years
sir.
and hopefully without any delays, correct?
And hopefully we finish sooner.
Okay, I'll extend that. And first of all, to Ms. Cisneros and Ms. Roberts, thank you for being fiscally conscious and wanting to be responsible with our budget. I think that is very wise thinking. But on the other side of the fence, I'm in between on this because I know if it was going to be my home for 2 years, I'd want it to be nice. But my question then, Tom, is this difference, and I'm trying to figure out what this difference is. Danny, you're saying like 60,000, but when I'm looking at it here, it seems like it's a couple 100,000. Am I off here, or?
No, from what you're looking at is accurate. I do want to clarify something with Mr. Tillman. When we reviewed the options with the stakeholders, we weren't pushing a cheaper option. I hope that he
I
doesn't
understand
get
that.
that perception. I know that one of the considerations that was brought up is they didn't want to lose another year of enrollment. And it was said that the November, December timeframe is prime time for enrollment. So I don't think that we were pushing a cheaper option, and I hope he doesn't leave with that misconception that we were trying to save pennies on either options. We were trying to just provide two differing options, and I know that the time frame was what was important when we met with the stakeholders.
Okay, and on the modular option, there's a possible increase of 25% in the space?
If we wanted to make it larger, yes, that would.
And I'm assuming that regardless of which facility we picked, we'd still include the nicer furniture that we're talking about, whether it's at the Marshall facility or
Yes, sir.
the portable. Okay. And then have we looked at the foot traffic that's around the Marshall building versus the foot traffic that's around here? In regards to that, and I'll just be very frank with transiency.
It wasn't listed in our synopsis, but I know that safety was raised with the stakeholders. Lighting, we do have security that does patrol the campus here, so I do think that that is a consideration. I'm not sure how large of a consideration that should be, but yes, that was brought up.
I would say it's a very important consideration, and I don't know if I'm making an assumption here, and this may be I don't see him the chief, but would our own school police be in regards to providing safety at these facilities, or would it be a security company?
We haven't reached out to district police to talk about the leased option and providing security there, but we do know that if the temporary modular was put here, that we would have the protection of their security.
Okay. Then my last concern here is that, obviously, a couple $100,000 is still a lot of money to me. I will say that as well. And I would hope there's some sort of assurance here that when our families are being fiscally prudent, that we would take that money and invest it into our new facility to ensure that when we build it right. That's my concern.
I can say that we want to exceed expectations when it comes
Absolutely.
to the new facility. And it's our goal to exceed expectations in every case. That's difficult, but I think we have a lot of fun, unique ideas planned for the center without name. But in either case, even for the temporary facility, we hope that we provide adequate housing for those needs of the school district.
Well, maybe not now, but I'm sure Danny would love it to be like the DT building, the Danny Tillman building, but no. But thank you, Tom, and thank you, parents, for, a wonderful presentation and all the consideration you've given to it. So I would love to see a amazing facility that does exceed our expectations, because I will say this, mine are very high.
Thank you. And I just want to add, One of the number one concerns, one of the other concerns from our parents, from Latino parents, was exactly what Dr. Wyatt said, safety, security for the children. And that's why, they inclined more. I did stress to them that to make sure that they attended the stakeholders meeting in November so they can voice out their opinions. I understand and hear everything that you guys have mentioned here. It was brought up by different parents. So we're saying this is what we are recommending, this is what we are agreeing, but it's not what Ms. Roberts or Ms. Cisneros want, it's about what the parents want. We're just here representing.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Flores?
Just for clarification, so if we needed more bathrooms in option one, we could build those, right? And that's the 25% increase that you talked about?
So when you order modulars in the way that we are, we can order them to include more restrooms or less restrooms. So they're very flexible. They'll actually build the modular with the offices, the office configuration, the number of restrooms that we're looking for. So in our discussions with the stakeholders, we had expressed that we didn't have room for small children. So we've already reached out and talked about providing an area, a waiting area for children, how that space would look like. I think in all cases, we'd build it to the need rather than buy something and try to fit the need to what is bought.
I appreciate what Mrs. Cisneros and Ms. Roberts have recommended and representing the parents' needs. I also am happy that you brought up safety. That's important. Also, the bathroom situation could be, fixed, given what you just said, Tom. The proximity to the Board of Education, because they want to be here, they know how to get here, is real important for them. In terms of where they come. I understand what Mr. Tillman is saying in terms of buses and so forth. But I do know that they take the buses and they do get here, and if they have an issue. And they'll be close too. And so they won't feel so removed from the center. And that's key, is my understanding. Is that correct? That from the parents, they want to be near the mothership, right? Okay. Thank you. And the fathership. The mother and the fathership. So I appreciate your comments and so forth, and I'm always inclined to support what our parents want, and I will support your wishes. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Medina?
Okay, I just wanted to clarify, with East Street, it's right here, which is, we're on F Street over here, and then East Street is the next one. So East Street actually has SBX, and that's the fast bus route within the city, and it's not too far. It's actually the next street down. So in reality, we do have easy, close-by access to transportation, bus transportation, which is not too far.
No. You only can get on that bus one place on that route. Most people don't ride that bus.
The SBX.
No, the buses that people ride is from their home, which terminates at E and Rialto.
Well, because I've ridden the buses before, and the thing is that I know I've gone through transfers, and when I've had to go to clinics in Redlands myself, it's okay. I mean, I've been where I went through one bus, transferred with my children in a wheelchair, in the strollers, as many moms do. But then what I'm saying is that SBX, because my children also uses a SBX bus, it's like literally 15 minutes. It's really quick. I'm not saying that that's the fastest option, but I'm saying that it is accessible when parents need to go somewhere, because I know I've done this before to make sure that I've made up my appointments. And then the other point is, I would follow the recommendation and suggest that we go with making sure that whatever difference that we do save from picking option one, that it's being directed into the new facility as a bigger upgrade. Either for whatever the addition the parents come up with, that would be a great option. That way it's not necessarily us, we're saving the money, and they can pick the option of what they would like to see with that extra money that's being saved. I come from a background where when you're in a situation, I'd rather save that money for something better and bigger for a permanent location than it is for a temporary location. So I completely agree with your story. And then, so I would go with the direction of going with making sure that we have 3 stalls for each at the temporary facility to make sure that we accommodate the restrooms. And then using that extra savings and having the direction for parents to pick and choose what they would like to do with that extra funding.
Thank you, Ms. Medina. I just want to say you did a great job. You did your homework. A couple of your meetings I watched, on the live stream and what have you. I only chuckled once, and that was with the washer and dryer. But other than that, we gave you a task to do, and you've been doing it for quite a while. And what I'm hearing you say is there's a possibility of 2 facilities, but right now we want to provide services for our kids, not now, not 3 years later. That's almost the same as saying I can get a Cadillac in 3 years, but instead of buying a Volkswagen now, I'd rather have nothing. But so I hear you, and it is all about the children and providing the services we need for families, et cetera. So because we gave you a task to do, there are always some things that you need to change and fix. It's just like when you buy a house. You get in there and realize you have 2 restrooms, and all of a sudden, when the grandmother and grandfather come to visit, you do what? You build on another one or whatever to accommodate your needs. But what I'm really hearing you say loud and clear is you want services and you want it now. And the only way you can do that is go into the portables. So I appreciate the task you have at hand, and I certainly support your recommendation.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you, Board.
Yeah, and then Board, you're not voting on this, but we are looking for your consensus. Again, we don't want to move forward, and we've heard from our parents, and we feel we have heard from you. Do we have your consensus to move forward as described with the added square footage, the 3 bathroom stalls on the modular structure
I
setting?
thought I heard them say they were going back to talk to a parents group and talk about the recommendation, or has that been done already?
No. We are recommending our parents that they show up to the meeting in October the 9th and hear both presentations, what they've offered to us, because not everybody showed up to our meeting.
Exactly.
So we want to make sure that the other people that didn't show up have a hearing. Because it doesn't
Exactly.
matter what I want, it's what the rest of the parents, I'm giving my opinion, personal, but,
And just for clarification, the option that I said I prefer is not 3 years later, it's March instead of November. And I know I can't convince anybody of this, and I sound crazy saying this, but there's you're not going to say because I saved $100,000 that when I build a new facility, I'm going to use that $100,000 for $100,000 more worth of stuff. It doesn't work that way. Whatever building you're going to get 3 years from now, you're going to get it whether you pick either option. Trust me. And I hope you can convey that to the parents, because I agree. A lot of people, most people are frugal. I am too. I save my money, the whole 9 yards. But to get twice as much space is worth the extra $100,000, trust me.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman.
So I suggest we wait until we hear back from you guys about what you've heard from your parents, so that when you guys come back with the recommendation, we know that's the direction of the entire group.
But then does that push our November
Yeah,
date
that's
back?
the problem. I have a concern with that because
Yeah,
then,
But you don't have to, but then we're in the same predicament. Because if we choose to go the smaller route, and you guys go back to your group, and then more of your group decides that they want the bigger building, then everybody's gonna get cussed out at this podium. I'm trying to avoid that.
I would push for a different, I would push with, I'm sorry, you were
No,
going to.
go ahead. Go ahead.
So my only concern is that the more we push this, the more we're going to prolong it. I know the parents want a location as soon as possible. So my recommendation would be to move on with option one with those 3 stalls, and plus utilizing, even if it's not there or not, or it is there, utilize an extra 200,000 or the 150,000 for the parents to decide what they would like as an addition, kind of like a bonus for whatever you want. If there was washer and dryers, if it was something else that wasn't included within the program itself because of the budget piece, that would be incorporated within it.
Right, and in reality, in my eyes anyway, November is still 17-18 school year. March leaves us 2 months in this academic school year, which in reality means it will really be utilized in 18-19 school year. And so it makes sense to me that we, what we're recommending is option one, and if we can move forward, because I didn't know we were going to be pushing dates back, because then that changes things.
Am I correct? I thought I heard you say earlier that you had, when you came forward today, it was the consensus of the group, whether you had a few people or not.
Right, so I followed up with some of the parents, shared with them the update from the meeting on Thursday. They were okay prior to and after the meeting with us moving forward, because we want a temporary location sooner rather than later. No, we have not discussed it in the big stakeholders meeting, because that is not until October 9th. So I apologize if I was unclear. The parents that have been, that I've been following up with want to continue to move forward with the process.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Flores?
So if we wait till after October 9th, then it's going to prolong it even more, because it'll now push it, what? It won't be November 17th, it'll be January something, if we don't do that. So, the parents were all given notice to come, but only a few showed up, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so in the sense of the parents that were there, they all had consensus for option one, okay, in both meetings, correct, Dewana? Also with you?
So to clarify, myself and Cisneros has been meeting with Dr. Moneras. Volcomar was not at the last meeting. Aldo and Mr. Pace representing the larger group. We get some things knocked out, and then we go present to the larger group, right? So this last meeting was last Thursday. It was not open to all of the parents. We came as parent representatives like we have been doing from the beginning before taking it to the larger group. But after the meeting, I shared out the...
Oh, I see.
Yes, I shared out the discussion with some of the other parents, and everybody was still in agreement that we should continue to move forward in the process.
And so did you, Ms. Cisneros?
The same process.
Okay.
Concerns were brought up, as Mr. Tillman was saying, about the bathrooms and the construction. So I can tell you it was probably a 50-55. So I'm the voice. I can say yes or no, but I don't want to say my own opinion. Personally, I would say yes, but if it's like that, because like I said, every concern that you guys brought up that was raised right here, it was raised by a lot of our parents when they were informed. So going back to them and explaining to them, if we don't go with option one, it's going to push dates back, as Ms. Roberts is saying.
And I'm concerned, I hear you, Devonna, Ms. Roberts, in terms of, getting the enrollment up, because that's when we start January, first of the year, February, that's when we start enrolling preschoolers and kindergartners.
Correct.
And we have to be ready, and then high school students, eighth graders moving into high school, picking all of those different programs. We have to get it up and running. We can't, and I understand what you're saying, Mr. Tillman, I actually do. I'm just thinking about the services and that we have to provide for our kids and our families and our parents.
Right, and remembering that it's not just enrollment, there's a lot of services that
Yeah,
can take place
lots
in
of
the
things,
meantime.
yeah.
And so what was important to us is not just the permanent location.
Right.
What was also important to us was that we had something temporary.
The services.
To get, yeah.
Right.
And so it's not just the enrollment piece, it's all the other
And
services.
then our
The health clinic
athletes,
is a big
needing
piece, right.
shots,
Yeah, there's,
you know.
so.
So I hear you. I still would want to go to option one. as a recommendation, as a consensus.
So that's two.
Thank you, Dr. Flores. Mr. Tillman?
Yeah, just to help me, I'm gonna ask somebody in the audience that is kind of shy and quiet, but I'm gonna try to get her opinion. Ms. Alba, Ms. Alba, you've been hearing the discussion. What is your which option did you want? Okay, hold on. What'd she say?
She prefers to return with the opinions of the parents after they've had the conversation with parents,
When?
which would be October the 7th.
Hold on. What's
So that way the parents you can prevent from parents coming back and having that conversation again.
Thank you, Ms. Alba.
See, the only thing is that with that, and I think that's a good idea, but my only concern is that, well, when you look at both of the, for instance, DLAC representative, you were voted by the DLAC members. It is exactly the same thing with District African American Advisory. You were voted in to represent their ideas as well. You listen to their ideas. It's like when you look at elected officials, they vote you in and you come up with a recommendation because that was what you heard within the consensus of the group. Likewise. And so for me, when I listen to you both are representing the community you're representing. And so by you having that recommendation is because you're coming up with a conclusion that this was what the conversation was about. And so for me, you can go back into the group, and if we have to rechange it, adjust it, we can, but my thing is that we don't want to prolong it even further. And I will still continue to push for the option one. And if there's maybe a pushback, then we can try to address it then. But my thing is I don't want to prolong it.
Okay. Who had the light on first? Dr. Flores?
Yeah,
Señora Alba.
Then you, Mr. Gallo.
Señora Alba, entiendo lo que está diciendo, pero es urgente que decidimos, porque si no, vamos a tener que esperar y va a impedir la matriculación. I said, I understand what you're saying, and however, I hear what they're saying about enrollment and services in terms of that. So I would like to have it done soon. That's what I would like to do. Because I know that parents, ¿Mande? No, pero si esperamos un mes más, ¿sabe lo que va a pasar? No, va a impedir la matriculación. She goes, we've waited 3 years, we can wait 1 more month. Yeah. So,
Okay, you next. Are you through?
I'm done, yeah.
Mr. Gallo?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Hill. Tom, if we wait until October 7th, does that impact the schedule?
So the way we looked at it, it would be 2 months from the time of a decision to get the modular structure in place, and then however long from the time a decision is made for the leased option. So you just back it up a month.
Okay, so let me just make sure I understand this. This November 7th, well, 17th, yeah, I circled something. That's based on a decision tonight?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Tillman.
I still, and Tom, you can tell me about it. So you tell me you ordered all the modular buildings and?
No, sir.
And you can't put that into the process and then we meet? To me, when are you guys scheduled to meet again?
October 9th.
October 9th. And you realize the reason why we're talking about this now, because a group of parents came down that were concerned that they didn't want to wait years for the enrollment center. We were going to do something temporary, and that's how it got spurred. Now, we had discussions with just a small group that agreed that we could wait the 3 years for the real building, and then found out that the most of the parents didn't want to wait. So my point is, you're better off making sure we have a true direction from the parent group. Because if you don't, then you're going to have people talking about conspiracies and we didn't get invited and you guys had secret meetings and now you're going the direction. Because you really are going to have a consensus from that group about the direction they want to go. So I think it's worth waiting a month. You could still move forward so that maybe you could minimize the time in case they did decide to go with option one. But I just think that the key here is to make sure that we make the right decision. If we pick the decision that puts us up in March, parents still are able to enroll their kids, but this is going to be a substantial time that we're going to be in this temporary facility. It's going to be 2 or 3 years before the new building gets built. So I would just caution us not to move in haste and wait the month, get the consensus, and then come back. And if we have to have a special meeting to expedite it, let's meet that week. We can do that. The board can do that. We can meet 2 days after the 9th. What day is the 9th? Is that a Monday or Tuesday?
That is a
It's
Monday.
We could schedule, do we meet that next Tuesday?
You have a scheduled meeting, special meeting for superintendent's evaluation on the 10th.
We could agendize it for that and make the final decision after we get the feedback. So now you're only talking about 20 days, 30 days.
In regards to doing things ahead of time, I'd hate to put an order in for a structure, let a vendor think that he may or may not get the work, and then pull it from him if we change direction. I agree with you, waiting 20 days isn't the end of the world if needs be.
So that's what I would suggest. We wait till they have their meeting. The day after that, the board takes action based on the direction of and the consensus of the parents.
So I'm going to summarize, if I may.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
If I may, I'll summarize. What I heard is October 9, you're going to have a meeting with parents, clarify from all parents that we have full direction, thumbs up. At that point, you'll express that to the team, staff. We'll express that to the board with your presence at the special meeting, October 10, if you could come as representatives again and assure us of that direction. And then from there, if I understand correctly, then we would have a December 10, 2017 completion projection for option one, if that's the direction that we hear. If it's option two, it would be in April 10, 2018 projection.
Can I make a recommendation?
Please.
That when it's shared with the parents, that we remove the cost of the two options.
Thank you.
Present the options with no cost.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Yeah, because this is not a discussion about dollars, has not been, nor is it currently. It's a question about what's the best way to serve our families and parents in temporary until we build the permanent facility. So great. So thank you so much for your leadership and your input tonight. And this has been, I think, a healthy discussion, and so we'll look forward to that feedback on the 10th.
But I do want to make an additional comment on that piece, that for me, it is where we become fiscally responsible. And I would like parents to see the price difference with the option of them adding an extra space or an extra something that they probably asked for in previous meetings that wasn't added because of the money or the funding piece. So, I mean, if you're looking at parents saving that extra money, and I would have loved to know, what is the difference in pricing? I, as a person who is trying to make sure that I'm fiscally responsible, can see the difference, and parents can decide on their own. And then they could see that if that's an option that they can add extra stuff to the facility, the permanent facility, because of the extra savings, I mean, I would like to know that option. So for me, it's a different opinion. I would like parents to know because I know that that's something that I would have loved to know.
Thank you, Ms. Medina. I think we've heard the board's input. We appreciate this board. And Tom, thank you for your leadership in this work. Ms. Cisneros, Ms. Devon, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I think the consensus of the board is we will wait to hear from you October the 9th.
10th.
And, I thought our meeting was
We're having a
10th.
special meeting on the 10th.
Yeah, we're having a meeting on the 10th, but your meeting is on the 9th.
Yeah.
Which means we'll need to hear from you either at that meeting or on or before.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Great presentation. And I believe we have one blue slip.
Yes, we do. We
Public
did
comment?
receive a public comment, and so the board would like to welcome Mr. Michael Akoto. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for welcoming me. Good evening to
Good evening.
all the board.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. We really, really appreciate all the hard work that the board has been putting in continuously for our youth of San Bernardino. First of all, I just wanted to have said that I had a meeting with Dr. Rachel Monarez, and she was very polite, and she helped me and enlightened me on a couple of things that I needed to know. I have 4 children that is in the district, San Bernardino School District. And my first 2 are IB students, and they both went to Chavez. My daughter just graduated from Chavez to Cajon last year. And the third one is also an IB student, and I have his grades here. And what happened was that it was a little misunderstanding with enrollment, and I do understand that. And what had happened was that although that we have put in a transfer for my son as an IB student to go to Chavez, and all his siblings are already at Chavez, he did not get in because there was a waiting list. And I found out just during the time that he was just put on the waiting list just this last month in August. But the letter that we put in was all the way out up in May. So during the school transfers and everything, that they missed him, and he did not get in the IB program. Now, just at this time, I wanted to address the board and actually not to ask for a special treatment, but to ask for help and to know, because my son is trying his best. He's doing all what he can. I didn't have the chance when I could have for a higher education. I'm a nurse here up in San Bernardino, and I see all of these things that is going on, but a couple of questions that I had that I wanted to kind of address, not only for my child, but for all, the students in San Bernardino, because I know and I understand that an error is not a mistake until it is refused to be taken care of or being handled. And so I wanted to know if the IB program is so much of a good program and is helping our children, the children like it and the parents like it, and the school board like it. Why aren't we having enough teachers and enough help so that we can have all children that are qualified in the IB program to be in the program? And also, I wanted to know if a school like Chavez, their 6th grades is for the IB program students, why could it be maybe some students that are not IB students in as an IB student, and we have a child, maybe some children that are IB student up on the waiting list?
Well, those are good things for us to think about, and I appreciate that. We are working hard on expanding our IB program. Little Mountain has just been one of the first elementary schools to receive that accreditation. It is a pretty lengthy, involved process. So congratulations to your children and your support as parents. I understand your son is first on the waiting list, and that's good news, and so hopefully he'll be in a class soon. That'd be great to get him on the track to where he needs to go. So no, your input here tonight is very helpful, and your comments heard, so thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
I really help you. I really I thank you for all of that. And now he is at Shannon Hills Middle School, a very good school. My wife went to that school. And it's just a problem when I go and pick up my son from school. It's just a little store, a 7-Eleven that is by there. And it's just the way that parents, people, San Bernardino in general see what is going on. It makes it hard, for even a student to be called or a parent to have something there. Maybe I was thinking if the school board or maybe the school police or maybe the shopping center there can try to get a security that can help during the time that school is out, so we can have all these children not hanging out and doing all those things that is not too great. I think that would be something that would be helpful.
Thank you.
Hold on,
Thank
Dr. Hill?
Mr. Chairman.
Question for you. I know in the past, at all our schools, whether it's Richardson or Rodriguez, that we try to keep siblings together.
Correct.
So I just want to make sure that that was factored into this, because if you put in a transfer and it was just standalone, where it was just based on that one child, that's one thing. But if the siblings are at one school, we're supposed to go. We're supposed to take additional action to ensure that the siblings stay together. So, Dr. Marsden, I hope you look into it and
All
make sure,
that
because
will certainly be taken into
I've never heard of us separating siblings. So we'll try to do something to fix
It's our goal to get them together, and absolutely. And our chief of police, school police, Joe Polino, is here tonight, so he is heard, or if he's not, he's stepped out, but he will definitely hear your advice. We appreciate that. Thank you for the father you are.
I really, really
It means a
appreciate
great
you.
deal.
I am the only advocate that my children have. I know I did not get the chance, and they are my dream. And I want to do everything to help them. And yes, I really appreciate it, because I have 2 children that already went there. A couple of years ago, I used to come to these meetings, and I heard it, that the siblings is very good, that they all go to the same school. Because both of them go to a middle school. School starts at the same time, and I'm having a hard time as a nurse working from 7 o'clock in the evening, getting off at 7:30 in the morning, and coming home about 8 o'clock, and have to drive one to Chavez, and have to think about driving one to Shandon Hills. It's tough.
Well, we'll do the best we
It's
can, and we thank you for doing all that you are. Thank
That
you,
is
sir.
no problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The board welcomes Mr. Rodney Robinson on the topic of facility use. Good evening, Mr. Robinson. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
How are you?
First of all, I'd like to say I think you guys are doing a remarkable job, that us as the community can come in here and share ideas, and a lot of the times I see you guys put them in motion. So I haven't seen you guys in a minute. I wanted to update you on what's going on with all the kids that we're working with. So first of all, with the facility usage, it's allowed us to raise funds. A couple of our kids were able to we went back east and we played, we won the national championship.
All right.
So we got 2 kids from San Bernardino that are
What program is that?
Loved Ones Basketball Academy. And just to put something out there, we actually beat LeBron James' team for the championship. We beat them by 30 points.
That's great.
So basically, I'm just thankful because I've been seeing this talent around here for years, and now we're able to showcase it. And like you said, I deal with different fights with this situation that I'm in with the school district. So just to let you guys know, okay, now that you allow facility use, we make money, but easily a trip, you know what a plane ticket costs, 10 kids, and we got to get room and board. So when we making money, just to give you guys a heads up, a lot of people on the outside like, hey, they making $1 million or this or that. But we also, like I have it all over my social media where we're traveling. Margaret Hill's on my Facebook, so she can see a lot that's going on.
I see a lot. You're doing a great
Yeah.
job.
So, and it's not just basketball, I do all sports. Right now, we currently have 12 kids that have, half of them are already committed to D1 schools. You know what I mean? So that's just, it's just a blessing that we have something to keep these kids going. So the thing with the facility use, now we're practicing. The sad thing for me, it probably don't have anything to do with you guys, but I'm looking at the kids, it's kind of like, wait, we're in the high school gym, it's almost like we need a rec center. We have rec centers, but they're not being used. We have all these facilities. There's not one recreation league. So all I have is my program. My program is really for elite athletes, you know. And like you said, I'm just thankful. I just wanted to come. I felt bad because it's like, hey, you guys did something for me. I just wanted to come in and give you guys an update. I'm actually going to put like a portfolio together and show you all the kids and their grades and like the colleges that are recruiting them. So I just
Fantastic.
came in to give you guys an update.
Well, thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Robinson.
Ron.
It's few that come to say thank you, so it's appreciated.
Yeah, you get a lot of people on your head, so I said I'm going to come in with something positive today.
Well, we appreciate it. I know the board appreciates it, and thank you for what
And
you're doing
everybody's
for our
been,
young people.
whoever I have to work with as far as facilities, you know, I'm a random guy going into a school saying, hey, I'm trying to get something going. So whenever I have a problem, the board and whoever I had to call to make it work, like, I really appreciate you guys.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you for
Ron.
what you're doing for kids.
Rodney, I need to do an article again. I think it's been about 3 years, so contact me so I can do an article on the team that beat LeBron James.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And then you make sure you pay real close attention to Cajon right now.
All
Well,
right.
I understand.
That's where most of the boys are at.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney.
Board, those end our public comments this evening. We are on item 9.1.
All right, this is session 9.1, Facility Finance Plan.
And Mr. Christakos and team will walk you through our facility finance plan.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Good evening.
On May 16th, we presented a general obligation bond update to you that outlined our 2016 state facilities eligibility. The Board gave consensus to explore selling additional bonds in order to access state funding. Since that time, Facilities has updated our eligibility, which you will hear later in the presentation. The good news is we qualify for additional funding from the state, and our assessed valuation came in higher than projected, resulting in additional dollars for our district. We want to compliment this board for leveraging local funds to maximize accessing state funds, resulting in an outstanding facility program and one of the largest in the state. And I'd also like to recognize John Poikert for his leadership over the years, who led the work. Since 2001, San Bernardino City Unified School District's Facility Capital Improvement Program is valued at over $1 billion. The board leveraged local bond measures of approximately $200 million and accessed approximately $700 million in state dollars. That's quite a return on investment. With the aid of these bond measures, 15 new campuses, 22 SDC building additions, 34 modernizations, and 75 other projects were funded. So at this time, we'll delve into the presentation. You all met Mr. Adam Bauer from Fieldman and Rollup at the last presentation, and I'll turn it over to Adam.
Good evening. On slide 2, we detail what we could generate with the $55 per 100,000, which we spoke to at that May 16th board meeting. In that chart in the middle there with the blue headers, we show at the $55 3 series of bonds, the 2017D, 2021E, and 2024F. So all those would take place at those years listed there. And then to the right of that is we detail how much of the QSCB, that is that qualified school construction bond, which the district took advantage of and leveraged some state or federal funding to help with the financing that we are now looking to pay off over time with this general obligation bond. If we focus on the red square rectangle there with the 2017D, you can see that we plan on paying off $20,581,205. We're putting money in an escrow account to pay that future payment, so the district does not have to use a general fund to pay that. To the right of that, we say anticipated project funding. This is $32 million, and that's what we'd be able to generate in 2017. To the right of that, we show how much remaining authorization is available on that general obligation bond measure, and then when the bonds are going to get repaid. It's between 2017 and 2042. To the far right of that, we show repayment ratio. I think this is an important number to show because it's low throughout your bond program. When the state passed a law to limit what some districts were doing with very high repayment ratios with certain types of debt, they put a 4-to-1. It has to be below 4-to-1 requirement. Here you can see we're less than half of that. So one is rates are low, and two, you've put together a prudent debt program that doesn't try to issue all the bonds at once, does it over increments, and that's why you've been able to take advantage of that 146-to-1 versus 4-to-1, which some districts have experienced. Below that red box, we show the 2021E. This is a series to be determined, and then a series 2024. The actions that are coming before you in 2017 in no way authorize issuances of anything other than 2017D. When 2021 or so, we'd come back to you and say, 2017D resulted in this, and you did these things with it, and now you have the opportunity to consider those for 2021E and beyond. So I want to make sure that when we're talking about a GEO bond and a board action in a few weeks, what we're talking about is just that 2017D. That's all that you're committing to. When we look at that $55 per 100,000, I think another thing to point out is the board directed us to only go up to the 55, not go to the full legal limit of $60. And so that provides a cushion to continue to be able to provide that QSCB payoff if assessed values ever don't grow or they decline. And then below that, we show where is the typical homeowner paying now. The typical homeowner has a home value of about $135,000, or not home value, assessed value within the district's boundary, the taxable value. And that's about $135,000, and they're paying about $39.15 per home. With this increase, or with going up to the $55 per 1,000, that'd be an increase of about $35.11 per home, and about $74.26.
The cost annually.
Annually, yes, sorry, per home. So turning to the next slide on page 3, we show current status of Measure N. And a large portion of Measure N goes to repay the QSCBs, which we've already detailed. That was those bonds that had the federal subsidy and provide a very low cost of borrowing for the district to allow those projects to get started during a very economically depressed period. We plan on paying off that QSCB over 3 series for a total of $54,229,232, which matches that prior slide. If assessed value increases at a rate greater than what we've projected, the district will have more funds available to it. For example, the last time I spoke with you, we had projected a 17-18 annual increase of 4%. I'm going to show you later in the presentation that we actually exceeded that in our close to the 6% assessed value growth. So if that trend continues, we'll be able to come back at these meetings and show you more money than what we're talking about today. On that next bullet point, and I'll focus on the box, we're detailing the district facility need associated with the facilities that we're talking about this evening at $138 million. We've identified, or the district staff has identified, $70 million in state funding and a total need of $68 million.
Little did I know when I took this job that it would come with friends like Coach Rodney. I appreciate our late night texts and his early morning phone calls. So little did I know how much I was going to gain. On November 8th, 2016, California voters passed Proposition 51, which designates $9 billion in bonds to fund the construction and improvements of California schools. Over the last year, we have worked to identify our potential funding under Proposition 51. Today, we believe the potential state funding for our district exceeds $70 million. In order to qualify for our portion of the Proposition 51 funds, the district would need to set aside roughly $49 million. In addition to the state school bond program, we have identified other needs, and those needs are identified under the orange line. For everyone's knowledge, those needs are in alphabetical order. It is important to know that we are currently evaluating the safety and security of our schools, but at this point we feel it premature to speculate on what is needed and what funding is required. We will be bringing forth recommendations for safety and security and those funding needs at a later date. Speaking of Proposition 51 schools, we have 42 sites that qualify for state funding. It's worthy to note that the identified schools are some of our oldest and most in need. 18 of these schools predate 1950. 31 of them predate 1960, and none of them are post-1970s construction.
On the next slide, slide 6, we focus on historical assessed value. And one of the things that we talked about in May was assessed value is made up of both the residential and commercial property within the district. It's all taxable property. Doesn't necessarily represent property values. Assessed value can only increase by certain percentages. During good times, that's oftentimes much less than where the property values are. But with the district's current assessed value, the one thing, or a few things that are different on this slide from the last time we presented it. To the far left there, we did not have 1718 assessed value. And that was one of the things that the board wanted an update on. As I mentioned before, we had projected a 4% annual increase in assessed value. We actually achieved 6.43. So the county released the assessed value at $14,491,237,242. That's one reason why we're able to generate more money than we showed you last time, is because of that increase in assessed value. But while that's very good news, and then you might ask me, well, why are we only projecting 4 when we can show 3 or 4 years of north of 6? And if we look at the bar chart to the right, I think it helps make the point why we don't want to do that. We can see in 2010, 11, 12, and 13, we actually had declines in assessed value, and a very small decline in 1998, and one in 1995. So being conservative in our growth projections makes it so that when we promise something to your taxpayers, or when we look at funding going forward, hopefully we're always showing a better picture than what we're actually going to achieve. So I think maintaining that 4% assessed value growth factor is important to make sure you can keep your commitment to your community. On the next slide, slide 7, what we've detailed there is the plan of what we showed that on the earlier slide, but now we show how that layers in. Focus on the multicolors there in the middle. To the far left is tax rate per $100,000 of assessed value. That red line is attempting to identify the $55 mark that I referenced earlier in the presentation. One thing I think is worth pointing out is the legal limit is $60, so we're still below that by $5 per $100,000 of assessed value. Each color in that chart represents a different series of bonds. If you look at the series A, B, and C, represented by navy, light blue, and green, those are series that have already been issued. The orange, an additional light blue, and purple are bonds that have not been issued yet. Those are projections. And you can see that we layer those in to always try to maintain below that $55 per 1,000. What I'd like to turn your attention to now is that red box towards the bottom of the page. When I said earlier that you're only looking at one series of bonds this year, that's the series that I'm speaking to. Those numbers are matching the earlier slide, which shows $32 million for new projects, and at $20,581,000 to pay an escrow account for that QSCB. So if that was the only action that you took over the next few years, that secondary light blue and that purple would never have been issued. The tax rate would actually decline in those years. And those are opportunities that you have to consider down the road. On the next page, page 8, we detail the financing schedule. And what we show on there is this evening, we're introducing or reintroducing this plan with more detail than we did in May. Another item that we have on there is a first reading of debt policies. And this is something that just has taken effect in 2017. Senate Bill 1029 was approved in late 2016. And what that required was that every public agency, like a school district that issues debt, must have debt policies in place, and they must contain certain items. The district's bond counsel has reviewed that list and then reviewed the policies with the finance team and has put together policies that satisfy Senate Bill 1029 and its obligations. And so that's an item that you have later in the agenda as a first reading and a second reading when we come back on October 3rd with bond documents. District staff is also preparing for 2 meetings, one with Standard & Poor's and the other one with Moody's Investors Services. The purpose of these meetings is to present to these parties to achieve the best rating possible. The higher rating that we get is just like a credit score. If we're able to get a higher rating or maintain our rating now, we get better rates than if we had lower ratings. And so what we did this morning was we had a preliminary meeting to really strategize about how we're going to achieve that result. And so those meetings are scheduled for September 28th, in-person meetings with those rating analysts. Then on October 3rd, you would have the opportunity to have the second reading of the debt policies and consider a very large packet of documents to approve a resolution of issuance and some other documents that will allow the district finance team to complete a financing transaction as long as it falls within the parameters in those resolutions. Assuming all that gets approved, and then on October 17th or on or about then, we would look to price those bonds in the bond market. And then following that, on or around Halloween, we look to have that transaction close. This is a date that money would be set in that escrow account, so we have additional years of money set aside for that QSCB, and then that money would be available for new projects.
To steal a line from Dr. Marsden, he always says, go slow to go fast. When we talk about next steps, I want to talk about a key next step in order for us to access state funds under Proposition 51. We feel to ensure that the resources are allocated in an efficient and effective manner and aligned with district's educational goals, we need to adopt a facilities master plan as step number 1. But a lot of you probably are asking, what does that mean? What is a facilities master plan? And for me, that encompasses about 3 things. We need to review our facilities, we need to assess them, we need to understand what our need is, we need to support that need with a financing plan, and we need to make sure that those plans are supported educationally, and that's what the educational specification aims at doing. In order to understand those educational goals and initiatives, we're going to be reaching out to different stakeholders. We hope to communicate our plan with the city and county so that they understand what our part in the redevelopment of San Bernardino is. We look to be reaching out to parents, teachers, and other district staff to understand their needs as well. And I actually would like to say just a quick word about North Park. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Yadira for her kind words. At North Park, we put up several images of famous people. One of them is Roald Dahl. He's one of my favorite authors. Many of you may know him because of his education or his stories for young kids. He's one of my favorite authors, and one of the central things about his books is that children find hope against wicked adults. And in every case, his characters find hope and they find friendship. And with Yadira, I'd have to say that I found the same. I found hope and I found friendship, and I appreciate her leadership through the troubled waters that we navigated this summer. And so I'd just like to thank her for her kind words.
Thank you.
And then, Board, as we wrap it up, you did receive a facility update that had more detail about some of the accomplishments through Measure N, Series A and C. We see these great projects across our district, and they do a lot to improve both our district and what's going on in the city. But here are some of the items that were included in those series. The HVAC upgrades, you can see on the side, I think that's Cajon, right?
Yes, that's the Cajon Performing Arts Center.
Which is, we did do a tour there. It's absolutely beautiful. Some of the sports complex, playground improvements, classroom portable reductions, cap sliding, a number of items that the board, we wanted to thank you for your leadership and improving the city. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great presentation. And I'm just so glad to hear you mention the upgrades, because, you know, I started working in this district in 1971, and I've seen a whole lot of bandages and Band-Aids. So I'm just so glad that we're doing things in a more timely manner, because for our students, you know, they are doing better. They are doing better under difficult circumstances. And the better they do, the more we need to put pride in where they have to go to spend the majority of their days. So thank you so much. Anyone else? Mr. Gallo?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Hill. Hey, Tom and guys, can some of the technology improvements be, I guess, allocated as part of these? And by technology, I'm talking about, you know, server infrastructure and those types of things. And have you thought about that?
Yes, sir, and that's part of the plan.
It's in which part? Like on the,
So are
I
you
guess
referring
the.
to future?
Yeah, like
Path.
funding needs, we got interests include, but I'm not
So
sure I
we've
saw technology sitting in there.
Yep, so previously, through A&C, we've worked through the IT department to help support them. We've added air conditioning to servers that need it. We've increased bandwidth through fiber. We've bought stacks
So
and stacks
it
and stacks of
fits.
switches.
It fits, but we don't have it, we don't have a game plan for that in here. I mean, because, you know, we've chatted about the number of things that we've, you know, we saw as critical in IT infrastructure improvements that were needed.
So,
And,
Mr. Gallo, part of the assessment that both you and Mr. Tillman mentioned at the last board meeting
Yep.
would be incorporated in that project, the master plan. And so we
So would
will-
we kind of update that in this? Is that what we're kind of thinking about?
When you look,
So when you look at the 42 sites that are identified, when we touch those 42 sites, yes, IT infrastructure is one of the high priorities that will be replaced and looked at for each one of those 42 sites.
and through that creation of the facilities master plan and the ed specs, that's where we would incorporate that.
Yeah, because some of it's, you know, maybe district level infrastructure too with our, okay, as long as we're going to incorporate that in here, that's great. Thank you.
Thanks again, unless there are more questions. Okay, Dr. Flores?
On page 4, this is the total funding that we need, right? $68,288,720,000 for the projects up here.
For the projects listed, that is
Right,
correct.
and so the bond pricing that we're going to adopt, let's see, where's that at?
Page 3.
On page 3, yeah. That will generate those funds, correct?
It'll generate the first down payment of essentially $32 million.
That will, okay. And then incrementally, I don't see how the other, where's the other money?
So, I'm sorry, I said page 3, but could we go to page 2?
2, I was at page 2, yeah.
So if we look
Okay.
if we look at page 2,
Mhm.
the third column to the left, anticipated project funding. So for the first series of bonds, we anticipate generating $32 million. In
Right.
2021, an additional $17 million. In 2024,
Oh, so that will generate that, okay,
69
great.
million is what
Okay,
we're
so our plan will be up to 2024
yes, ma'am.
to spend the 68 million in terms of our projects. Okay. All right, thanks. Thank you very much. It's really, really clear and understandable. Adam, very, very
Great.
clear. Also you, Tom.
Your staff works very hard. to
Yeah,
make sure
and
it's clear
also,
understandable.
and also Janie, yeah. It's, I mean, it's very complex, but, you know, the way you've presented it, it really is helpful. So thank you very much.
Thanks again for a great job.
Yeah, my compliments to the whole team. Mr. Cardy, thank you so much.
And 9.2 has been pulled, so we're going to session 10. Reports and comments. Report by San Bernardino Teachers Association.
Good evening, Superintendent Marsden, President Hill, Vice President Medina, members of the board.
Good
and
evening.
cabinet.
Evening, Ash.
Good evening.
I'm Ashley Vitas-Alcala, President of the San Bernardino Teachers Association. And tonight, I've been working with Ms. Christakos and her team, specifically Deborah, I don't know if she's still here, to roll out the teacher allocation for the $200 budget. Thank you, Mr. Tillman, for your leadership on that. We're hopeful that we can get some more supplies in the hands of all of our certificated non-management members in the next few weeks. And so we thank you and the board for pushing that forward for our members.
Thank you.
So the way it's set up, they're going to get vouchers to go to different stores? How's it work?
There will be, there's 3 different vendors they can choose from. 2 of the vendors, there'll be a purchase order that's set up for the teacher to go online and purchase once their name has been submitted through the blanket purchase order process. And Ms. Christakos' team has been doing a fabulous job of running all of those details down so the secretaries know exactly how to do it. So hopefully there won't be no snags or snafus in it. And then for Lakeshore, they'll have to go on site to the store. But they'll already have a purchase order set up, so their names will already be submitted.
That's wonderful.
Once they identify which store they want to purchase from.
That's wonderful. So thank you, and I want to thank Ms. Christakis for getting it set up, and thank the board for moving forward on it. I've heard from teachers, they're excited about that extra $200 for supplies. It's a big deal. So, and thank you for working with us, Ashley.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. 10.2, California School Employees Association. 10.3, Communications Workers of America, Mr. Fletcher.
Good evening, Dr. Hill and the board and Dr. Marsden.
Good evening.
I really hope, Dr. Marsden, you have as much enjoyment out of your chocolate lab as we have out of our black long-haired lab, who's 10 years old. They're great dogs. And I'm really like the idea that we'll be able to see it around at some of the schools.
That's right.
The quick little thing that we have is on November, we were going to have onboarding training for substitutes, and we had invited you guys on the board to come to it. Well, that has been postponed, and so now it's December 18th and 19th. We will have the onboarding, and you're welcome to come to it because it will have cultural training, the whole works. And now, one thing that some of you might be happy to hear, we have elections coming up next week in our CWA. And unless I don't get nominated, or I do stand a chance of having somebody else get more votes than me, that will be decided by November. But I just thought I'd let you know that my time might be coming up shortly. So y'all have a good evening, and we will see you next month.
Well, good luck to you, Ron.
Thank you. We wish you the best. 10.4, San Bernardino School Police Officers Association.
No report.
10.5, San Bernardino School Managers.
No report.
10.6, comments by board members.
Danny was first, I was second.
Okay, well, Danny, Mr. Tillman, I'm sorry.
I've had, I still have a number of parents and people in the community that ask me about the Chromebooks, and they still don't have a contact person. And just, I mean, I read something in our board correspondence about a form that can be used to request it from sites, but a lot of sites don't even know that the students can request a Chromebook and get one. I had a student at the UCAN event, and he said, Mr. Tillman, I asked him for a Chromebook, and they said, we don't do it at this school. So I don't know what it takes to spread the information that we still can give students a Chromebook and access to the internet. The sites don't know about it, so I don't know how we fix that. But
Yeah, I'm aware of that interaction, and we will certainly underscore that with our leadership team so that the message is clear, more clear.
Thank you. And if we can, I mean, maybe it could be more convenient, because I know Karen knows. I just have them call Karen and have her refer to, I don't know who she refers them to, but she gets the job done. But if there's a number that you guys want to use, that I can tell people who to call to get the Chromebooks, that'd be a big help also. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gallo?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Hill. The thing you're being invited to, the Riverside, Grow Riverside, project in the arts and whatever it's called, the thing, it's a way of actually expanding one of the programs that we had pushed through and funded as a board, the Advanced Technology Farming Growing Hope Initiative. And this is moving in a direction where this is a core element of creating healthy cities, and God knows San Bernardino sure needs to be pushed towards that end of the spectrum. And the healthy cities on healthy eating. We've got what's called the Blue Zone right next to us in Loma Linda, and we have whatever the opposite of a blue zone is in San Bernardino, one of the unhealthiest cities in the United States on the list and things. And this is the work that we're doing to actually help build San Bernardino, not only from a workforce development perspective and getting our kids familiar with advanced technology and urban farming and creating healthy initiatives, healthy eating initiatives for themselves. They might actually be able to grow in their own backyards and in containers, basically, in their own backyards. But actually be a way to transform San Bernardino and see us move towards a healthy city. So the work that we have been funding through the Link Learning initiatives, our career pathways and things, is so important. It's a way that we've actually figured out how to engage our community, our entire community, in the tremendous investments we've made in education, and see it benefit multi-purposes. Our communities, our kids certainly, and their educational attainment levels and things and opportunities for the future. And so I just didn't want that to be wasted on us. I wanted you to know, and I know that we recognize this, that these investments are incredibly valuable to our community here. And, I know that's why many of you are on the board, is because we want to see us directing these funds that can have those multiplicity of benefits, and through our teachers and through basically we're a service organization. We deliver through the people that we hire, right? That's the primary deliverer of our services. And so building the highest quality team and seeing that they're equipped with the tools and abilities to become successful is so important, and that's the work of the board. So just wanted to acknowledge that.
Thank you. Thank you. Mrs. Medina?
I wanted to mention two different events going on in the city and also in the Inland Empire. So there's a Rainbow Pride Youth Alliance. It's a leadership summit directed towards youth, which are from the ages of 11 to 18, which is the first thing that has been seen in the community. I also want to mention the dates, which would be on September 23rd, the Leadership Summit, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. I've sent Dr. Marsden the flyer, so that way more of our GSA students are invited, as well as advisors, to come learn about the LGBTQ issues, stop bullying, and gain tools to improve community engagement. If they can please RSVP with Gustavo at Rainbow Pride Youth Alliance @gmail.com before September 22nd, and hopefully we can get this out to our GSA clubs as soon as possible. Like I mentioned, I emailed that to Dr. Marsden. And then I also want to mention that Alpha Alliance is partnering with the Youth Action Project, presenting the Black Youth Civic Engagement Workshop Series. And these are great opportunities for our youth to learn about how to get involved civically, as well as leadership skills. And these sessions will be starting October the 7th. And there's 3 series, October the 7th, October the 14th, October the 21st, which all are on Saturdays. If they can RSVP with Rocio Aguayo, and her phone number is 909-325-5813, at Rocio at alphaalliance.info. They can also visit the website, alphaalliance.info, as well as the Facebook page. These are great opportunities that our youth can participate from both aspects, and as I get information of different community engagement events, I will definitely be sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Medina. Dr. Flores?
Yes, I'd like to thank Cabinet personally for all the board correspondence. I know it takes a lot out of you to do all this, but it's greatly appreciated. For Business Services, Ms. Christakos, thank you so much for all the updates on the creative, Adobe Cloud. It's good to know. I do know that some schools that have graphic design still need the licenses, so I don't know how we can provide those, but I hope we can for them. I don't know if it comes out of their budget or if it comes out of our district budget, whatever. I'd like to talk to you about it. I also like to thank Dr. Mitchell. I really appreciate you doing the work in terms of linked learning. And this is, board, I don't know if you know this, but look at this beautiful brochure that we've created. That's perfect. That's out of Linda's office. Thank you, Linda. It's so beautiful, and that's what we need to project for our public. I mean, it's just incredible. Every high school that has linked learning and academies is listed, and so we should all go. I want to go and visit some of these, so now I know where they're at. And then I had requested a budget, so I'm really happy to see that budget. And I would like for you to ask, the teachers if that's enough, and how much more do they need so that they're even more successful in terms of the academies. And I think it's per academy, not per school. It would be per academy. So I just want to thank you very much for that. And Dr. Wiseman, I don't know how you did it, but it's pretty good, because I asked 2 weeks ago, I asked for the class sizes, open seats, and combination classes. And I just want the public to see, here's the data. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to study it and read it. So I'd really like to come back. I think all of us should do that and just look at that in terms of that. And what was particularly interesting is that Corona Norco is about 1,000 kids more than us, and they only have 7 combo classes, and we have 79. So I'd like to know how they manage that. So we have to, really investigate what we can do about that.
Yeah, they don't have any, they have 0 ABE programs.
They have 0 ABE programs, but they have dual immersion.
And they have fewer schools than us.
Yeah, they have fewer schools as well. Okay, I didn't know that. I just was going by the students. And then Chief Paulino, thank you again for providing the quarterly student citation data update. We really appreciate it. I still want the legend of the citations. Did we get that? I don't know if we've gotten that, because it says a little bit about what it is, but I don't know exactly what the legend is. I would like a copy of that, but thank you so much. And then Dr. Monitis, thank you too for providing all the data and the board correspondence, but especially, the update, the disaggregated data on the number of students suspended by ethnicity and by gender. That was really, really key. I don't know if you all saw that, but also, the CAPS, expanded learning, all the different things that you provided, the ERMIS budget spent down plan update. I really appreciate it. And Dr. Volkemer, thank you for following up on all those little tidbits for the athletics program. I really appreciate it, very, very much so. And it's all about service, right? All about our service. And Dr. Marsden, thank you for readily responding to all of my texts, whatever hour it is. Even though I know that you go to sleep early, I still text you.
My pleasure.
So thank you so much. And I just wanted to comment one last comment.
There ought to be a hazard pay, I think,
Yeah.
for jail.
I just wanted to share, and I'm sure Dr. Marsden's going to share this too, and I don't know, well, you didn't go, Scott, but we went to a conference. Mr. Tillman Dr. Hill, Ms. Rogers, Dr. Mars, and myself on Friday by Ed Trust West. It was incredible education equity forum. It was just fantastic. And I went to a session on link learning. I learned so much. It was just fabulous. And it provided a lot of information. Oh, and Dr. Mitchell went as well. And so it was just very inspirational, very rigorous. And I do remember that they did a report or a study. Did we ever get that, Dr. Marsden? Ed Trust West? They provided it. Did we ever get it?
Yes, we did, and we're in year 2. We have a partnership with Ed Trust West now. I have a BC I was going to pass off if you asked a question about it.
Okay.
But we're in deep partnership with them. So a year ago, they provided a study of our A to G coursework and grading practices. They gave us a host of recommendations. We've since met with them again in cabinet. They were able to present their findings in cabinet. We've created a grading practices committee involving that our partners with Ed Trust West will lead us through. We've already had 2 meetings,
Right.
and we'll be sure to invite you. We've had 2 planning meetings, and we're involving principals, counselors, teachers.
Can we have that report? Can we have a copy
Absolutely.
of that report?
Yeah.
I would appreciate it very much.
Yeah, it
Getting
won't be a
that
report, it's just more of an update,
Uh-huh.
because I know that Ms. Rogers was asking about it, so I'll pass it to the board right now.
Okay. Then lastly, I just want the board to know, well, we all know, because we're going to be there, that this Friday, La Librería del Pueblo's Legacy of Exemplary Service Awards, Dr. Marsden is one of the recipients, and so is Ted Alejandre. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that. So, thank you.
Good. Thank you. Dr. Wyatt?
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Barbara, Dr. Flores. I would have loved to have gone to that Education Trust West conference, but I was very fortunate to actually be up in Burlingame with CSBA finishing my master's in governance, so that's where I was at, or I would have been there.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Just a few questions and compliments as well. I'd like to thank our staff and our students that were out there this past Monday, walking our routes to our schools to experience, actually literally in the footsteps of our students and seeing some of the pathways they have to go through to get to school. And again, I just want to compliment. I really want to compliment our partnerships too that I saw in the board correspondence. Some of those folks that are working with us, 7-Eleven, Altadena, Salvation Army, Sanji Soccer Complex, Young Visionaries. I saw Mr. Stone in here earlier. San Diego County Fire Department, United Nations of Consciousness. Again, just, obviously we're going to need our community help to patrol our streets and to make them safe. I see here that we have a 3-prong approach of education, law enforcement, and community involvement, and a few school areas, as we're calling them, clusters that we're targeting in the Royal Valley and Pacific and San G areas. I would really like to continue to see this, if possible, right here behind us at Jones Elementary. I know I've brought up this school many, many times. It looked like it was cleaned up for a while there, and unfortunately, it is back. So if we could somehow add that to the list, Chief, that would be great. I see most of our resources are coming from our own San Diego City Unified School District Police Department, which, I want to compliment them. But my question is here, based on this presidential task force of policing, century policing, says between law enforcement, local communities, and ultimately reducing crime and increasing trust. Do we have our local department chief that is working with us on this, or is this pretty much solely on our San Diego City Unified School District Police Department?
Yeah, you'll find that document there. It shows it's collaborative, a community collaborative. So you have our sheriff department as well as our local police department that's on board with us. And they may not be mentioned in there, however, they're partners.
I just want to make sure that we acknowledge them as well. And next time we have a meeting on this, a community meeting, I'd love to be a part of that so we can let the board know when that's happening.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And then I want to move on next to one of our other board correspondence provided by Dr. Menades, and I appreciate the information looking at our suspension data. And seems like a majority, a good chunk of our suspensions are coming between 7th and 10th grade, as I'm seeing. And, and how are we looking at those particular subgroups and what are some of the interventions that we can maybe look at and try to reduce the suspensions that are happening there, because it's quite a few. And then when I look at the percentage of number of students served versus number of students suspended, still our African-American males, or African-American students, excuse me, are at 13%. So I know that's been a concern as well. And Dr. Menards just shared with me that they'll have the SPED data on here at our next board correspondence, which would be good. And maybe just some feedback between the 7th and 10th grade, and what is our strategy moving forward to address those subgroups and really trying to reduce those numbers.
We can get that for you, Dr. Wyatt.
Okay, and then, thank you very much. And then just a little bit of a description of our undercover anti-bullying team. That's first time I've heard that term, undercover anti-bullying team, and maybe what that is for our community and our board here to see what that is. So we kind of understand that when we're out with our community, we could explain some of the things we're doing to counter bullying. All right, fantastic. And then just want to continue to compliment our folks, and again, Dr. Menards, your team on our MTSS behavioral support program update. And I see we're utilizing CBT here, cognitive behavior therapy, which I really do support, and I'm glad to see. And we're at 9, it looks like 9 schools, 4 elementary, 4 middle, 1 high school. And I'd just like to see how that's coming about and how that's working for our staff that are being trained in that. And, there obviously are folks that are trying to be the trainer of trainers, it looks like, to support and build capacity with our counselors, and maybe kind of if possible, a timeline. What are we looking out at the next few years in regards to taking that to scale with all our schools, and what would that take from this board to be able to help fund and make that happen? So those are the issues that I'd like to see addressed.
That's for the MTSS, Dr.
Yes, ma'am.
Wyatt? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And Madam President, that was within 5 minutes. Oh, look at that, just made it.
You did okay.
Double.
I want to share a few things, and I crossed out some of the things that some of you said, and ditto to Cabinet for all the work you're doing. I had an opportunity this morning to go to the UCAN College, and it was just absolutely marvelous. The students there, some students were walking out with big scholarships. And let me tell you about Dr. Rowe. A young man in Portland had been accepted to Virginia State, of course in Virginia, and came up short of funds. So I called Dr. Rowe, and he made it happen. And so it's good to have those connections and those relationships. But it was absolutely wonderful today. Yesterday, I see Peg is still here, but Peggy, Scott and I went to the community college, met with the board there, and one of the things that we're focusing on first is a collaboration between our counselors and the counselors at community college. Because I know one of the things they talked about doing is they want to invite students to Valor College to learn about the programs, but we suggested maybe you should start with the counselors because they don't know a lot about your programs either. So it seems like that's going to be a priority for them. First Five has a book, Part of the Artist. It's a market adventure. It is in, I think it's in English. It's in English and Spanish. So I'm going to pick up about 100 of these, and we'll probably ask the student board member who sits over there in the audience when we have children 5 and under to show up with the parents, that each one can get their own book to take home. So I've already asked them to do that. Just want to share with you that in our county, San Bernardino County got a new facility, purchased a new building, and it was named at their board meeting in September, and it's named in honor of Dorothy Ingram. And Dorothy Ingram was the first African-American principal in this county and the first African-American superintendent in the state of California. So just wanted to share that information. So what the others didn't share, I think Dale's going to share. So I do want to say one thing. I want to say thanks. I was selected, and some of you know, I haven't gotten my, that's okay. I know it's in good hands. But I was selected to represent San Bernardino City as its hero for the Los Angeles County Fair. And it was quite an activity, quite an event, very special and whatnot. So they had a little parade around the fair, and but it was really good. And I just want to say how pleased I am that I was selected.
And I'm sorry, Dr. Hill, I meant to bring your award in here tonight. I have it with me. I'll make sure you get it this evening.
Well, the reason Dr. Marsden is in possession of those, because it was hard enough for me to get on the float with nothing in my hand, so I never would have gotten on with those things. And but thanks for keeping them for me.
They're in safe hands.
Okay, Mr. Tillman.
Yeah, I just want us to keep in mind the victims of Hurricane Harvey.
Yes.
I hear Irma is devastating people, and then the earthquake in Mexico, which is just
And Maria, the hurricane.
Maria,
Maria.
and then the earthquake
I was
is
just
turned out to be even worse than ever, and they're trying to take people out of rubble. So whatever we can do to keep them in our prayers and find ways to help and send resources to them, just want to make sure we remind ourselves there are a lot of people in need right now.
They are, and if we can contact Mayor Robertson in Rialto, she has sent some UPS trucks there with, what primarily, she said, one of the things we don't think about people need, we always think of water and we think of food, but she not only sent water, but also boxes. She has a company in Rialto, and they gave her many thousands of boxes so people can be able to pack things up in trash bags so they can put whatever they have left. But thank you, Mr. Tillman, and to everybody else. We do need to keep them in everybody in prayer. So thank you. And then we'll move on to 10.7, comments by superintendent and staff.
Thank you, Dr. Hill, and, I echo comments on the UCAN conference. It was fantastic this morning. Mr. Tillman's son received a full ride scholarship offer to at least one university, so it's exciting when a number of our young people can walk in with those opportunities. I want to bring to your attention that last Friday, 27 of our district schools received statewide recognition for their outstanding work with positive behavior interventions and support. So you talk about the goal of all schools, fidelity. We're working toward that to receive that distinction. And so compliments to the following schools: Anton, Arrowhead, Barton, Bradley, Brown, Cole, Davidson, Del Rosa, Hunt, Jones, Kimbark, Newmark, Pacuma, Ramona, Alessandro, Riley, Roosevelt, Thompson, Warm Springs, and Wilson Elementary Schools, as well as Arrowview, Chavez, Curtis del Vallejo, King, Serrano, Shandon Hills Middle Schools, and Indian Springs High School. Thank you to all the principals, parents, staff for their continuous efforts around PBIS, and thank you to Dr. Rachel Moneras for her making a priority of her leadership in this work. And so,
We got recognition for that.
27 of our schools and districts, for our district,
Wonderful.
And 2 are gold, so 2 are gold awards. One is Riley and Kimbark. Thank you. Yeah, so
Great.
fantastic recognition. We'll
Wonderful.
keep working on the work, and I know in a number of years we'll have a high level of confidence on this board and team and community that we have high fidelity to that work. So, next, I want to mention I recently attended the California Promise Conference, Pathways to Student Success Conference, along with Dr. Mitchell, President Diana Rodriguez from San Bernardino Valley Community College, Deputy Director of the Workforce Development Board, Marianne Ruffalo, and Chief of Staff Julie Lappin from Cal State San Bernardino to promote increasing college enrollment and completion, creating a college-going culture, and strengthening the local economy, and engaging cross-sector community partnerships, and building sustainable funding and student support models. This is all around our San Bernardino Promise, so we want to take that now to the next level, looking at other model agencies and working toward that. Also attended during the first week of September the California Workforce Association Conference. I was asked to present, along with Marianne Ruffalo, the Deputy of the Workforce Development Board on the district's commitment to 100% of our students participating in career pathways, and the Workforce Development Board's commitment through its Generation Go youth program. So as a reminder, Board, our county Workforce Development Board has made a commitment that all of our kids in pathways have an internship. That's a huge commitment. And so to have them co-present on that topic and talk about that was fantastic. I also had the pleasure of hearing from the former U.S. Ambassador to Switzerland talking about the robust apprenticeship programs that they have in operation in Switzerland. Since then, I've been in contact with the person who leads the apprenticeship efforts at the California level. We're looking at the possibilities of a small contingent from all of California possibly going to Switzerland to look at that model, bring back some ideas. So stay tuned. I may need some of you to help me bring some cheese back with our apprenticeship. So I'll keep you posted on that. Last week, we hosted our district Century Club Breakfast, showcasing year-over-year accomplishments for our students, staff, and district. Special thanks to Linda Bardier, our Director of Communications, and their department staff for coordinating yet a very successful event. So thank you, Linda. They had a tour of Middle College High School. Many of our community partners had not seen the program up close, and after hearing from the students, we're convinced that we have a gem within our city. Attended Ms. Rogers Young Women's Empowerment Conference earlier this month as the 5th annual Women's Wellness Conference, and along with several of our cabinet team members. Again, just another evidence of the kinds of great work that our board is up to. As was mentioned earlier, the Ed Trust West Education Forum last week, and had the pleasure to meet our former U.S. Secretary of Education and spent some time talking with a number of leaders there. Our district was called out many times and not just in small conversations, but in the whole setting about the work that we're doing. So it's being championed. Dr. Mitchell and I were talking. We certainly plan to be a center of presentations next year because we have a number of things we think we can offer that conversation around A to G, et cetera, that we're working on. As you know, later this week, I'll be hosting our first meeting of the 17-18 school year with our superintendent's Student Advisory Council. You're all welcome to stop by. The kids, you'd love to hear their voice. As you recall, I convened this group a couple of years ago to ensure that student voice is a key driver in our decision-making processes. This group has had representatives from each of our high schools, foster youth, homeless youth, students from our youth court, so we have a good, robust body of students giving really great input, so looking forward to that. One thing I wanted to shout out is Tzu Chi Foundation. You know, not only do they provide health services to our community regularly, but now they have food distributions going on, and the leader of Tzu Chi met with me and said, look, we have the ability to serve 500 families, and only about 200 are showing up. Can you help us? And thanks to Linda's efforts in communications, our team was able to help get the word out. They had over 650 families come. So they had to actually make a second trip with their food truck to help feed these families, and they did it. Over 1,000 people represented feeding these families. So that was an exciting time. Board, you have a copy of Leadership Magazine from ACSA, the Association of California School Administrators, and it features our own Linda Bardier, Director of Communications, Community Relations, and our Communications Officer, Maria Garcia, for the outstanding article in the latest association magazine. So congratulations, Linda, on your accomplishment.
To you both.
Always fun to say you're an author, and so now you can. So great job. Published author. Anybody can be an author. And then Arrowhead Grove grand opening is occurring. Community partner Hope Through Housing Foundation is hosting a grand opening of Olive Meadow at Arrowhead Grove, formerly known as the Waterman Gardens, on Thursday, September 28th, 10 a.m. to 11:30. Olive Grove Meadow is the first on-site phase of a larger revitalization development plan for the greater community, providing 62 high-quality, affordable apartment homes for low and moderate income families. Board, if you are interested in attending this event, please RSV with Karen Cunningham or Carla Cross. And then, Board, as was mentioned tonight in the presentation with Ms. Christakos, agenda item 12.2, you may recall receiving a BC recently regarding item 12.2 on tonight's agenda regarding debt policy and Senate Bill 1029. Due to those changes in the law, we're required to adopt a debt policy in order to issue any new bond debt. So because of the timelines of the change, staff is needed to forego our policy on subcommittee process and is submitting the first reading reading of the policy at this time. So if you need additional details, feel free to ask us now or ask us later, and we'll provide those to you. And then finally, Board, I'd ask your consideration due to the Thanksgiving and winter recess schedule. I'm proposing the cancellation of the board meetings currently scheduled for November 21 and December 19, so that will enable all of staff and cabinet to have those extended holidays that I think would be helpful. So, Board, I'd ask if you'd be willing to entertain that proposal.
You want us to do that? You want us to do that
Cancel
now?
the 21st and the 19th. Yes, that way we can begin to get the word out. Staff feels it will not be a burden to do that.
Okay, is there consensus?
But that's two meetings, so that's one, so we'll have one in November, and then we'll have one in December.
Correct.
Right. Is that agreeable? Okay. And the good thing about it, yeah, one is the 2 days before
Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
and the other piece was you had CSBA going on, and we just felt like that might be a better,
Exactly.
okay. Thank you, Board.
Board, is that okay?
No, just, so what meeting will we have in December?
Yeah,
The second, I mean,
Ms. Cunningham?
it's the
Can you give me
19th, I
the
believe,
dates
in
for
December.
November meeting and December meeting, please? December 5, and on November, the other one is, besides the 21st currently scheduled? November 7th, thank you.
And the, after the election, the new board be sworn in when?
They would be sworn in on what date, Ms. Cunningham?
It's usually the second meeting in December, but you're gonna do it December the 5th? And we can do it legally? I think that'd be important though, because you don't, if there's something that's, is set up where you can't do it on the 5th,
Yeah.
then you have to schedule a special meeting in December. You wouldn't want to wait till January to seat the new board.
Good point. We'll check into that, Mr. Tillman. Thank you for that heads up. Thank you. So then, with your permission, we'll at least cancel the 21st, and then we'll give you a final word on the 19th at a later meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Board. Any other thoughts on that? Okay. Those were all my comments, Board. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Flores?
I just wanted to, I forgot to mention that we're getting 2 Golden Bell Awards. And one of them, I'm really happy because Dr. Wiseman submitted it, and it's to grow our own teachers. So I think that's really stellar. And the other one is the student recovery.
Operation Student Recovery.
Yeah,
That's correct.
Operation Student Recovery. So I'm really, I'm glad that we're being highlighted. I think we need to get our brochure ready, and all of that, and all of our, so we can share and all the little particulars before we go, so.
So these are pending a validation visit, but yes, we
Yes.
have been, we are in that.
Right.
that's-
I mean, it's pending validation, but I think it's just terrific.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Flores, for
you.
bringing that up.
Ms. Medina?
I just wanted to mention, I think these are all great comments that Dr. Superintendent Marsden mentioned, but I noticed that they didn't time him. So I was like, okay, so each of us board members have 5 minutes, and there has to be exceptions as well. I mean, they can't be exceptions. So I'm just curious if you want to
I
make
don't
sure-
listen to the timing, I
Oh,
just
you
keep
don't?
going, yeah.
But still, they
Right, I
time
would
us.
say we've
And
got a violator
Still,
right
I try to
here.
make
Right,
sure I'm under
right.
the 5 minutes,
Right.
otherwise I could give a whole report as well. So I mean, I'm just trying to
We
be
also have to
conscious.
take in consideration how many times you talk during the different presentations.
No, those are presentations are separate, but I'm just saying.
That's a very good observation.
Can we have Danny handle this protocol discussion? I think he'd be perfect, since, you know, he's quite adamant about instituting appropriate protocols.
Yeah, I noticed we don't see those top 10. Well, maybe, they're real tiny. You can't read them I guess because we don't follow them. It doesn't matter how small they are. Okay, yeah, okay. All right. Thank you for your observation, Ms. Medina. Let's move on to session 11.0.
So moved.
Consent
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. Are there any to be?
11:22.
11.22.
11.2.
11.2. Anyone else? All right, with that, let's vote on the rest of them. Okay, Dr. White is
Out.
Out right now? Okay. Will it
Should I
pass?
vote for him? No. I'm just teasing.
11.2.
Violation of protocol number.
I'm kidding.
Okay.
I pulled this, only the reason why is because I understand what Mr. Fletcher was mentioning, Ron, in regards to the funding amount. And when you look at, I mean, we've done this in previous, I believe it was last year without having to spend extra money. And when you look at the fees that we're going to pay and what that can be used for, honestly, for me personally, that's why I wanted to pull it, because I want to make sure that I show, I mean, I think it's a great program, but I just think that the money could be used in something else, so.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Medina. With that, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor indicate by pushing your button. Okay, and Dr. White's still out, but motion carried. Thank you. 11.22, Mr. Tillman.
Yeah, and I just read this earlier today, so I didn't get a chance to contact staff. But I just want to make sure with the Aries software, this is the grading software, when I went to my son's open house, it seems that the teachers are doing a lot with the Google Class and some of the Google applications, and they're not really using the Aries in the same way. So I don't know if the two integrate or if there's
Yeah, I can have Dr. Mitchell speak.
a better tool in Google Class, if that's more natural for the teachers. A lot of times we don't want to get stuck in the technology just because we've always done it that way. If there's something better, we should look at moving forward.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Tillman.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Tillman. That's a good question. So we don't mandate teachers using a particular platform. So the Google Classrooms is an emergent platform that's coming out. We also still support teachers that use Aries as their platform. So this is just it's a self-selected training that we do every year for teachers who are using the Aries platform. We're not going to tell them to go to Google, and we're not going to say stop using Aries. That's really a teacher choice. So for the staff in our district, among the teachers we have who are using Aries, this is a support and training for them to continue to do that. Now, the difference, though, with Aries is that when you're using Aries gradebook, the parents have access to that through the parent portal.
Yeah, but the question is somebody mandating that?
No.
No, but in order for it to be functional and benefit parents, there has to be some type of standard or consistency. Can we say that at least the grades, the official place for the grades is Aries, or is it not? Because, I mean.
The official place for grades, for progress reports and end of semester grades is Aries. The formative stuff, the quizzes, tests, teachers are using a variety of platforms to do that. Now, so parents, if a teacher, for example, is using Google platform, their quizzes and tests and homework and the day-to-day stuff that they capture in their grade book would be on Google platform. But when they enter their final grade, that would be on Aries. Now, that puts parents at a disadvantage because they cannot go into the Google platform.
And that's what the point I was going to make. The problem is they will tell you, you have to talk to your student to get their password to get access. That's not a good thing. I mean, if you just talk about it in terms of IT security, you never tell someone to share a password. Absolutely. But I just think it needs to be thought out. Maybe you guys have a committee, and someone has to think about the pros and cons. But I really do think that it benefits parents to have access to a system where they see assignments and grades all in the same place. And I see this happening. I noticed it when I was going to the classes. You have teachers saying, I'm going to put all my assignments into Google, and you can go to Google and check your assignments. And when I'm talking about assignments with consequences, the ones that parents want to know about. And at the same time, you make the announcement about going and get your access to Aries, and I'm thinking, but what's in Aries? There's not a whole lot in Aries. So I just hope we start that discussion. If there is a tool that can be used to give parents access to the Google part, we should look at doing that. If that's the direction that the teachers are going. And it's got to be, because if we thought about it, trust me, somebody else has thought about it before. So we should explore those options.
Yes, and Danny, that's an excellent recommendation. And I just passed a BC around to you regarding our work with Ed Trust West, and we've established a grading practices committee for the district. And so certainly I will put that in as one of the questions to ponder for the committee, because I agree wholeheartedly with you that parents are in a better position to support their children academically if they can see the formative piece that goes into the summative grade. So thank you for that suggestion, and we'll wrap that into the committee.
Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Medina?
I'm glad that you mentioned it, Mr. Tillman, because honestly, that's one of the advocacy work that I did with COPE was through the Aries Parent Portal and making sure that more parents were accessing it as well as our teachers were updating it. My concern is that if we're using the same thing that Mr. Tillman mentioned, two different platforms, and our parents are at a disadvantage and our students are. I don't know what the benefits are for the Google platform, but when you looked at the Aries portal, I'm able to have 5 children in the district. I was able to access all 5 children within the same platform, went one by one, and I saw the assignments, I saw the grades. Now, you're right, that not all teachers were updating it at certain time levels, but what are the difference between the Google platform? I don't know what the advantages are when you have multiple children, and especially when you look at private information, which programs are in. I would like to find out what the differences are. And we should be using one model, unless we're educating our parents on the multiple models, because it would be very confusing, especially myself that have 5 children in the district at one point.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with you. And there are dozens of grading platforms that teachers are using. In fact, I would imagine that we have a significant number of teachers who aren't using any electronic platform and are using the old school grade book. So I think that's a district-wide discussion that we need to have. We'll work with our SBTA partners to interweave that discussion into the Grading Practices Committee.
Thank you. Mr. Gallo?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Erlin. I guess the question for me is, Keenan, do we have dollars in here to actually incorporate, whatever considerations we're going to do? Because the whole point of this is to have something consistent that parents can get complete access to grading, classroom assignments, et cetera, in this. So if we embedded this, I read your memo, and if we embedded this into, part of a committee or something, and/or this contract, I know this is specific, but do we have enough dollars to go, allocate and do this type of work and get it going? Because I really think, the bottom line is parental access.
Yes, we would have the dollars to support a district-wide subscription to any grading platform that we want. So there's one thing to provide the platform, and then the other thing is providing the culture in the district for teachers to update those, whatever platform you use on a regular basis, to be meaningful for parents to look at. So the Grading Practices Committee will have policy implications that the board will need to approve, but mainly a discussion around culture and mindset on grading in general. What are some innovative, progressive ways that people are grading? There's a school that we're planning to visit in Santa Ana. They have a charter school that does competency-based grading. So their kids are not organized in grade level sets, and their kids are not giving the A through F traditional kinds of pieces.
Well, and that sounds like it's great, but I guess my recommendation is that in that committee work, we may want to add the not specifically, limited to grading policies,
right,
but other kinds of accessible things that might ultimately yield to grading, but like homework assignments and other kinds of things. I know those are components of it, but I didn't know. I think what we use, say, Aries for, whatever information we wish to communicate to parents, that maybe this committee work be expanded to include that communications.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly with and appreciate all of your comments, and you can rest assured that we'll integrate that into the committee. And on that BC, I've given you the dates, the meeting dates. You're more than welcome to join in and join in the discussion. It's a rich and robust conversation. It's a mature conversation for a school district to begin to start talking about what do teachers, put into grades, how to, formative assessment, benchmarks, all that kind of stuff that really gets, instead of having a DF committee, we've renamed it to a Grading Practices Committee.
That's great. And being...
Well, we chartered the committee, so one of the pieces that we put into place in Ed Services is in order for us to develop systems, I have my directors submit a charter which says who needs to be involved, what questions are you trying to answer, what is the timeline, because then that committee will give a recommendation to cabinet around, hey, the committee met with these people, we answered these questions, and this is our recommendation coming from the committee. Cabinet will then push those forward. We'll have greater confidence in pushing those recommendations forward because we'll have confidence that we've involved the people in the decisions that affect them.
Dr. Hill?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I just want to just add, as technology progresses, at some point it just, it starts out as something that people just tinker with and you just have the autonomy to do what you want to do with.
Right.
But at some point, it becomes a mission-critical piece. And I'm telling you, this has grown into that. So we need to involve the Teachers Association,
Absolutely.
have a committee come together, and make sure everyone realizes we're not at a point where you're just doing your own thing. We're at a point where we want you to have freedom, but we have to
Standardize
it in order for it to benefit everyone.
Right.
Teachers, parents, and students. But we're no longer at a point where we can just let folks do as they want. There has to be some type of procedures so that we, and things have to be dictated in terms of a minimum level of standards in terms of where parents can go to see information. And it doesn't have to be a bad thing, but if we don't talk about it, it's not going to happen. So I just hope we get everybody involved that needs to be at the table.
Absolutely.
And say that here's the place the system we're going to use, and here's and allow everybody to choose which one we're going to use.
Right.
But it's
And even if we choose different platforms, some expectations around what we communicate to parents,
Exactly.
what parents have access to.
Exactly.
And Ashley can assure the board she's been involved in this conversation and the development of this committee, and so that's a piece that I think is a natural part of that. So
technical piece.
Yeah, so I appreciate
Thank
you
you.
bringing that up.
Thank you, Ms. Medina.
Also, being mindful that the Aries portal does also include tardies in attendance, which means that parents were able to see when their child was not in school and looking at that as well. So, Aries has a great platform, but I'm not sure which is the best. So I just want to make sure that we looked at the tardies in attendance. Now, I'm glad that you're presenting this because I know this is something I've been asking for when I was a newly school board member during the A through G committee that we were looking at. And then I guess they had the conversation, we had the conversations regarding grading practices. I wanted to, because of this correspondence, I want to find out if we can provide more information on the A through G committee that at one point Texacosta was in charge of. I don't know what the updates are or what we're doing with that, because I know there was some great recommendations during that time.
That came out of the previous DF committee?
This was through the A through G committee.
We've kind of conjoined it, and we've asked Ed Trust West to help us.
Okay.
You see, the cabinet board members commented earlier on the conference that we went to.
Yes.
So this will be our second year partnering with Ed Trust West. We also are partnering with Doug Reeves, who's become an innovator and leader in this area. And so our intention really is to have a rich, robust dialogue around best practices, best-in-class practices, innovative, progressive practices in terms of grading policies. And then I think it's a great element to add into that in terms of how do we communicate our grades, who has access to them. Because I know, we know that when parents are able to monitor their kids' formative throughout the quarter instead of getting the end of grade and then responding to that, kids are more successful. So
But I'm specifically talking about the A through Gs as a default, which was during that committee time,
Yes.
which is separate, because they did I remember we invested so much time, and at the end, there was nothing done with it. And so in reality, there wasn't, because I haven't seen anything.
Right.
And so I'm just curious that if we're going to include this within it, it can't just be like a little side note, A through G. It has to be really, because like I said, we did so much work. There was many teachers, many individuals that invested their time in it, and we really didn't do nothing about it. And so for me, that's something that I wouldn't want to waste people's time as well when you're looking at this practices, because we've done it before with A through Gs.
yes, I appreciate that. And so we have the report from that committee. Tex has given all of that over to Suda and I.
Okay.
He's involved in the conversation. Now, so a grading practices committee naturally leads to A to G. And then Ed Trust audit, they did an A to G audit for us. We have their recommendations. Now, Ed Trust is leading us in the next level of conversation,
Okay.
responding to that report. So Ed Trust West audit combined with the committee that Tex led on the A to G, and now combining with the board's concern around the number of Ds and Fs, we've combined all of that to be a grading practices committee with an eye for the A to G work, because that's what Ed Trust West is
Okay.
really about, is increasing A to G. So we're expecting kind of a multi-level conversation that's all related, because you can put a kid in A to G, but if they fail, they're not A to G.
Right.
So it's also a matter of grading and expectations, and
Right.
there's a lot of complexities related to it. So we're going to involve school leaders and counselors and teachers and parents and students, as well as our SPTA leadership. We're also going to involve as I said, the expertise coming from Ed Trust West, as well as INCUST, the National Center for Urban School Transformation.
Mhm.
They're involved as well. They're yes. And so also Doug Reeves is involved. So the idea is to really dig in through kind of managed conversations with clear outcomes to be able to, and like I said, the committee may produce board policy issues, it may produce professional development issues, a discussion of platforms for grading. That's an issue that I think we need to add that you brought up tonight. And so the board can look forward to kind of a rich recommendation that comes out of it. And we'll have a board presentation so that you all can engage.
Okay.
You certainly are welcome to join the conversation.
And just to not get into the topic more deeply, I would say that you do have a presentation on October 3rd on our key performance indicator of A to G rates.
And
So
the
that's
part I
coming up.
made, the item I pulled is only talking about the software, but
Yeah.
I had my light on, so I'm going to step in. Dr. Mitchell, also, have we surveyed why there's discrepancy across the board in terms of grading? Do we know why people have, what their actual grading criteria are by subject?
No, we not specifically, but we know, this is not unique to our district.
Right.
We know that one of the greatest autonomies that teachers have is their course grade. And so the idea is not to mandate or I don't think you can make policy mindset, but having a discussion and centering on what are the high quality indicators of high performing grading systems, and how can we move our systems toward that?
Yeah, and if I may, Dr. Flores, I know this is an important topic. It's not on our agenda currently.
Right.
No.
What we may do is maybe express your further thoughts to Dr. Mitchell offline, and
Right,
if we
I
want
will,
to have a.
'cause
move
I
to
just-
approve. Move to
No, I just
approve.
wanted to
Second.
raise that issue.
It's a heavy conversation.
It's a heavy topic.
Move to approve 11.22.
Second.
Let's vote, please. Okay. Thank you, and I do want to remind you, and thank you, Mr. Tillman, for reminding me that we do need to stay on topic with the agenda. Let's go to session 12, 12.0, action items, 12.1, personnel report, number 6.
As presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's vote. Thank you. 12.2, new policy, debt issuance and management policy. This is the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, be it resolved that the Board of Education receives the new board policy as a first reading. It's been moved and properly seconded. Let's vote. 12.3, as soon as I get there.
Page 53.
Move to approve.
Okay, 12.3, amendments to Board Policy 3350, Business and Non-Instructional Operations, second reading. It's been,
There was motion second. I
okay,
second it.
it's been moved and properly seconded. Be it resolved that the Board of Education adopts the amendments to Board Policy 3350, Business and Non-Instructional Operations. Let's vote. Thank you. 12.4, Board Top 10.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Let's vote.
Mr. Tillman?
Dr. Hill, I just want to make sure that in all these items we put on top 10 and top 10 list, that they're there because the board has decided that's the top priorities. And when money arises that we can use to deal with some of these issues, then we know from the start, I think, that's where it should start, in the top 10 items. And if a person wants to have another item in there, then we should have the discussion and have something else taken out. But I think that the top 10 list is there for a reason. We put a lot of effort to put it there, so that when we start spending additional resources, that's where we should look first.
Okay. Do you see any there that shouldn't be that? Because I think these are.
No, but I
biggest
just
ones,
know of
but-
items that come up that aren't in the top 10, and we're looking at spending money on those, and that same money could be spent on other items, and I think we should agendize those to have the discussion about solving these problems first. That's why I think we have the top 10 list.
That's correct. All right.
Well, and, I mean, I suppose we can get a report maybe a little bit later on some of this, but some of them in the top 10 are showing complete or anticipated completion date, and those dates have passed.
And I guess the kind I'm talking about is like the ones that's been on for a long time about creating additional schools like Richardson and Chavez and, but we never have any discussion about it or talk about putting resources towards it. So I'm just saying, if the money becomes available, those are some of the things we should have a discussion about if we really want to do that kind of stuff.
So would a recommendation be to agendize this and take a look at the,
Well, this
top
is
10?
agendized.
So we
Yeah.
did fill out a form, right? And so we should have
we-
that updated. Do we get an
I'm
update
just,
on?
I'm just saying that it should have validity, and those are the items we
Right.
should discuss
I
first.
agree with you. We should have fluidity if there's other issues that come up, and they take priority in the top 10,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so at that point, we have to decide whose item's coming off, which
Exactly.
will be another
Sure,
lengthy discussion, I'm
Right.
sure.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
But, you know, one of the things, for instance, item number 6, this was one of the ones that I put on there, but, you know, we just reviewed all of our test scores and all of this, the details of this, and this is the primary intervention that I think we need to, you know, enact on how we're going to actually see our student achievement results change, you know, not only the A to G compliance ones, but the performance on test scores and proficiency levels that's achieved by, you know, our various student bases. I know each one of the schools have looked at their data and have conducted, you know, their own evaluations of these things. But I think a district-wide strategy for how we're going to, and I brought this up, I remember 5 years ago, and got the, some of the teachers and everything thought I was the Antichrist, I think, when I suggested grouping students by
You should have thought, you
proficiencies.
should say think.
Grouping students by proficiency level and actually have targeted intervention strategies by the various levels of proficiency that a student was achieving. And that you'd, you know, and this is kind of a classroom manifesting issue that, you know, if a student is having difficulties in a particular area, that they actually are receiving certain targeted interventions as a group to see that you know, proficiency level at least brought up to a standard. And so I know, Dr. Mitchell, you're thinking about this kind of stuff and everything, and, you know, the date that I saw on this was August of 2017. So you got to kind of target for what we're thinking about.
Well, like number 8, we can take off, because we're doing that already. Yeah.
I'm with you, but.
And there's
yeah.
other ones that we
And-
can
and-
take off, because we've
And I
done
know
them.
this is, maybe we can talk about this at the next round.
Right.
You know, as versus having a whole detailed discussion on each one of these right now.
Yeah, so Some of that is involved in our TSSP plan, where we're accelerating performance of our schools. Some of it is related to different initiatives we have, like the Afro-American Initiative, Multilingual Initiative, A to G. I mean, so it's a variety of things. And so, Mike, let me give you a call and see if I can get some more detail from
thing
you.
to do, because, this is, I know,
Yeah,
a
'cause-
pretty.
and I've struggled with
the
it.
standardization is the core.
Right.
What do we do when we target a student that is performing under our desired level?
Yes.
And what interventions are we initiating to actually intervene?
Yeah, so you're talking about our MTSS systems.
Exactly.
Which are
Okay, exactly.
are not coherent across our district.
And I'm just saying that it's up to us to create those opportunities for
Absolutely.
student interventions, is my
Absolutely.
point.
So let
And
me
then-
give you a call and see if
Sure,
I can get
that's
more
great.
detail from
Great,
get what's
thank
in
you.
your head into our head, and
Thank you,
then
Pete.
we'll bring something back.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Dr. Hill, on number, a good example for me is number 5, and it says create programs with excellence at other schools. Example Richardson, to eliminate lottery weighting, and that will include additional components. I've always thought of that as being something where we were going to, for instance, if we have money, you'd build another school. And either that school be used to create a program like the Rodriguez and the Richardson that had the waiting list, and you either use the old school to be the new Richardson or Rodriguez, and then the new school to take those kids. So I'm thinking whenever we have the funding and we have money for new schools, that's what we're going to use it for. If that's not going to be the first thing we use new money for construction for, then we should know that ahead of time. Because for us to have it on a list, but never ever have talk, never have anybody champion it for us, and never have anybody really looking at doing it, doesn't do us any good. That's my point.
That's true. I agree.
And that's what my fear is.
Okay. All right, thank you. But I think what I'm hearing is
Thank you,
we'll
Danny.
bring this back and realign our top 10 in some way.
Yes, and thank you, Danny, for that one.
All right, and I know Mr. Tillman didn't vote, so can we have a revote on 12.4?
Yes, that we're voting. Go ahead. Revote.
Revote on 12.4?
Well, you voted already. You had a
But
vote.
Danny was the one that didn't
Mr.
vote.
Tillman didn't, he asked the question.
Mr. Tillman.
Oh, I see.
Okay, all right,
So you
thank
had
you.
a first by Dr. Flores and a second by Abigail Medina,
Yes.
and you
Now
had
we're
5
okay.
members vote.
We just
Yeah.
revoted and had 6.
Okay.
All right,
Got it.
12.5, board follow-up.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Let's vote. Thank you. 12.6, board future agenda items.
Second.
Let's vote. Thank you.
Closed session, 13.1.
Session 13.0 is closed session, and we will report out after closed session.
Yes, ma'am.
With that, this is a readout from closed session. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the appointment of the following employee: Dorothy Sauls, elementary school vice principal. Effective date, work year and salary to be determined. Funding 035.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and properly seconded. Let's vote.
Good night, everyone.
Move to adjourn?
Good night. Thank you. We've adjourned. Good night.